legislation done and a strong public statement from them that they were interested in February. And when their own legislature gavelled out just a few months ago on May 31st, that's when the entire board unanimously voted to focus on Hammond, Indiana. When we get this across the finish line, we're in the due diligence stage. It's going to be one of the biggest things that's ever occurred to our state, not to mention the region. So we're doing everything you need to do to make sure we get it done. And a lot of it, somewhat of the urgency is off because they were wondering who was going to listen to them, where it was going to be, and we've done that pretty quickly, made it easy. So it'll be a few more months. They're looking at additional acreage, which I think they might come up with. But we're in contact with them at least twice weekly, and the mayor probably is as well.
Can you speak out so we can get the update by tomorrow?
No, not tomorrow.
Not tomorrow?
No.
What's your message to the people of Indiana? They're still cleaning up from a few weeks ago. We got pummeled again today. It's still early August. What's your message to people who are scared of those?
It's been a rough weather season. We're kind of in that tornado alley, and if we're going to get hit by it, the question more often, you'll have to up the resources. All I can tell you, I've been here a year and a half, and in our state's business, it's running about as well as it can. Our state budget is in great shape. We got a surplus. We got a rainy day fund. It's been the sole reason we've been able to give the gas tax holiday. 49 other states probably wish they could, but that's a collective effort among local governments and state government, and when we need the federal government to where they come in as well, and we got a good relationship with them. So you got to plow through it. Hopefully it never becomes an instance of government not doing its share of it, and we're inviting you to stay communicative. Tell your local authorities what needs to be done. The state will be there to back it up. So I'll take two more questions. Go ahead.
After the disaster, Indiana has a much better relationship with the federal government, the Trump administration. How will that help you? Do you see that being a leg up for Indiana?
I think that's going to make a difference. We were the state that got the drone corridor when they picked 2 states. We're the state that's going to get part of the agricultural department moved to us among 4 other states, 5 of us all together, and things like energy independence. So we can actually do what I've spent the most time on, reorganizing the entire Indiana Utility Regulatory Commission, and we're going to make sure these affordability issues, property taxes, health care costs, cost of owning a home, all get addressed. And this is part of it, and yes, you got to have a relationship with the federal government, hopefully to where they're responsive when you need them. One more question. Go ahead. So the tag is here, Larry Munich, General Munich. He's here because if we need those resources, I will authorize them to be here if we need to speed up the cleanup or do anything above and beyond. That's why he's here today. He does an excellent job. We got one of the best guards in the country. They run a really good shop. So yes, he'll be on call. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it.
Well, you're I spend a lot of time with
All right, we have been listening there to Governor Mike Braun updating us on the recovery efforts in Northwest Indiana after all those storms hit yesterday. Hearing from a lot of other elected officials as well. I think one of the biggest updates there was that a 4-year-old lost their life in all of this in Jennings County. A tree came down there, so that's just heartbreaking and awful to hear.
And they talked about 2 other deaths too, not confirmed whether those were storm related. Still waiting on that confirmation. That was in Lake and Porter counties. Our Brittany Toulis was there asking questions, and our Brett Bagansky continues the coverage in Indiana at 4, 5, and 9 tonight.
And that does it for us here on The Loop. We'll see you back here for the news at 4 and the news at 5.
Yep.
But right now, stick around. Chicago Live starts now.
All right, thank you guys. Yeah, you are watching Chicago Live. Appreciate you tuning in right now as we have so much to talk about, especially weather-wise. That's really been the big story of these, and not just today, but this entire week. And if you're just tuning in right now, just want to bring you up to speed with what we were just watching moments ago. Governor Mike Braun in Hammond, Indiana, he was over at a fire station. He was joined along with the National Guard, the Superintendent of State Police, the Department of Homeland Security Executive Director, talking about the cleanup now after those storms. And I want to point out one thing that's heartbreaking, but for me, it was the most important part of that conversation with the governor. We found out from Homeland Security Executive Director Jonathan Whitham that they have confirmed one dead from yesterday's storms, and that was in Jennings County. Unfortunately, it was a 4-year-old in Indiana, is revealing that a tree fell on that child's home. That is all we know at this point. We don't know anything else about that situation, but just heartbreaking to hear that a 4-year-old lost their lives in that storm. They also mentioned that 2 other deaths may be related in Lake and Porter County. However, at this point, we just don't know. They also mentioned the possibility of some injuries as well connected to those storms, but we didn't seem to get any numbers that I heard in that press conference there. When it comes to numbers, what we did hear were the number of people still without power right now, and it sounds like this is going to be a long recovery period for folks. NIPSCO talking about 276,000 people without power right now. And I did actually, I just wrote down the ComEd numbers. I know that's in Illinois, but also 138,000 approximately people in Illinois without power. So the mayor of Gary, Indiana spoke briefly saying that the YWCA is going to be a shelter. It's going to be offering hot meals. And right now, the governor was also asked about, what's going on with the power lines down. What do we need to know about some of those gas stations that we saw? Incredible lines of people waiting to fill up gas cans and fill up their cars. He's just saying, listen, we're going to try and work through this. And they're also watching for price gouging as well. But just mentioned that the most important thing in this recovery right now is getting that power restored. So as we learn more about this, of course, we'll bring that to you. But it has just been an incredible amount of damage from those storms, as we've showed you on air. The trees down, the lines down, the issues getting gas, that 4-year-old child that was confirmed dead in those storms. So when we get more information on that, we will bring that to you. Okay, want to switch gears just a little bit here on Chicago Live. We've got a lot to talk about here this hour. I'm only here for an hour. I'm going to be switching it up with Tia Ewing in just a bit, but I'm really grateful to be here, and I'm grateful to have you here as well. We are talking with Alderman Brian Hopkins of Chicago's 2nd Ward this afternoon. Alderman, are you there?
Yes. Hi, Liz.
Hi, it's good to have you. Welcome to Chicago Live. Curious, I want to start a little bit with the Division Street Streetscape project. That's going to, actually, I should ask, is that happening already? Is that project already underway?
It is underway. Yeah, we broke ground recently. There's some construction cones set up and traffic is impacted, although cars are still being able to get through on Division. We're going to try to maintain vehicular access throughout the duration of this project. But the neighborhood is excited about it, and it's a long time coming, and they're glad to see the work finally get started.
Now, you're an alderman for a couple different neighborhoods. What neighborhood exactly, if people are unfamiliar, what neighborhood exactly is this project taking place in?
Yeah, this is the Gold Coast primarily. It's kind of adjacent to Old Town and Streeterville. I represent a lot of different communities, and Division Street is an east-west arterial route that is really a spine, for my ward. So this is something that a lot of different neighborhoods have been waiting for and are supporting enthusiastically, not just the immediate Gold Coast area.
So if you could explain this to people who are watching, what is this going to look like once it's all said and done? What is it going to feel like? How is it going to be different from the area right now?
Sure. Our inspiration is really sort of a European or, Parisian cafe type, where you see more people enjoying outdoor dining and drinking than indoor dining and drinking in some European cities. So you have to make it comfortable for them. And that was our inspiration for this. So we're doing a complete redesign of the street, the sidewalks and the street as well. New curbs, new gutters, of course, ADA requirements will come into play, where we're going to have much easier access for people in wheelchairs and mobility devices. And this will allow for a greater degree of outdoor seating for both dining and drinking. You know, the bars on Division Street are known more for adult beverages than they are for food. But most of them do also have food offerings. So we're hoping that this will inspire weekend brunch and some other things that Division Street hasn't really been associated with. It's long been a center of late night partying. And, you know, that's probably going to continue, but we'd like to see it be able to offer more than just a place where you can go and still expect to find a bar that's open at 4 a.m. on a weeknight.
Okay, that's fair. I mean, you had me at brunch, that's for sure. But let's talk a little bit. I know you mentioned this, but I just want to be clear for people navigating crazy Chicago traffic. What can neighbors expect with some of the closures, and also transit-wise? Is it impacting any, CTA bus routes or anything?
Yeah, a slight impact to the CTA. It's not impacting any of the major bus routes that use this corridor, particularly the 36 Broadway bus. It'll have a slight 1.5 block detour around the construction site, but other than that, there's no impact on the CTA. And as far as traffic is concerned, we will be maintaining at least one travel lane for vehicles throughout the entire duration of this project. There may be times when either westbound or eastbound traffic is briefly impacted or restricted. But Division Street historically hasn't really been very friendly to cars anyway. There's, beer trucks and delivery trucks and everything that you can think of, double parking and blocking the curb lanes, which has been happening routinely for years now. So when this project is done, there will still be one lane of travel, both east and west. That is unchanged. So after this project is finished, we don't think there'll be any noticeable difference in terms of the ability for cars to get through in both eastbound and westbound.
Okay, that is interesting to hear, because I mean, when you talk about it as sort of a European outside experience where people can walk around, that sounds great. And I'm curious what the reaction is from neighbors in that community about that. But on the other hand, as long as you're maintaining some of the traffic there, when you take away lanes, there are people that get kind of annoyed. So what is the general consensus from the community about the project?
Yeah, well, the neighborhood kind of has a love-hate relationship with the Division Street bars. They've been around forever. My generation remembers fondly when they were the #1 destination for college kids, especially from the suburbs. When you were planning a night in Chicago, you were going to Division Street. Those were the bars that you were going to hit. Today, it's more River North has kind of filled that niche, but the Division Street bars are still very successful. They're busy all the time. And the immediate neighbors recognize that it's part of the vibrant fabric of the neighborhood, but there's also problems associated with them. Late night noise, the occasional fights. Unfortunately, we've had the occasional gunfire incidents associated with a couple of the bars in particular that have attracted a more rough crowd. So the neighborhood recognizes Division Street isn't going anywhere, but they'd like to see it be a bit more compatible with the residential neighborhood, which is surrounding it. So we think the Division Streetscape project will push the clientele of Division Street more into a type of customer that's compatible with the residential neighborhood and less likely to cause the types of problems that my office gets complaints about, and my fellow aldermen too, that surround it. Every time there's a bad incident at one of the bars, we hear about it. So if we can take steps to minimize those types of activities and change the reputation, change the vibe of Division Street, to make it a more family-friendly environment and have a better class of clientele, that's what we're trying to do, and we think it's going to work. So the neighborhood knows what our intentions are. I can't say everybody is confident that it will work. There's certainly some naysayers out there that think we're rewarding bars that have caused problems in the past. But I think it's going to work. So I'm willing to have this conversation with you next year at this time, Liz, after we go through another summer, and see if it's successful. I'm cautiously optimistic that it will be.
That was actually my next question, because once this thing opens, and you should let me know when you're expecting it to open, and also what those benchmarks are for what's moving in the right direction. What does that look like? Is there a benchmark for decreasing the bar fights or decreasing some of the crime in the area that you don't want to see?
Yeah, the fewer incidents, the better. The fewer complaints, the better. So I don't think we've set any specific, statistical watermark that we want to hit. 0 would be good, when it comes to gunfire incidents. We just had one in the last couple of months, and not on Division Street, but on Lincoln Avenue, which is kind of got a similar vibe to Division Street. There's some bars that seem to do really well and very few problems, and then there's a couple that every time you hear it's a problem, you know which one it's going to be. We kind of have the same thing on Division Street. So if we can get those bars that have been the source of a vastly disproportionate number of complaints and problems, if they can change the way they operate, that will be a big success. And I think even the most skeptical neighbors will join me in celebrating if we can pull that off.
Yeah, and I guess that is my question. I mean, how do you cut down on crime? I definitely don't have the answers, but I think it's one thing to say, hey, we want to have a brunch instead of a late night out. But if people are heading out late at night, has this method been tested? Has this streetscape method been tested and been proven to cut down on crime? I mean, how do you even start? How do you do that?
Yeah, that's a great question. I don't know of any studies that have definitively proven that it works, but intuitively, it just seems like it will. You're attracting a different kind of clientele. And some of the bars, not just on Division Street, but throughout Chicago, some of the bars that have resulted in a vastly disproportionate number of gunfire incidents, fights, and complaints are doing it because that's where they make their money. They don't want those incidents to happen, but they're willing to accept it as collateral damage because they can make a lot of money renting out their bar to a crowd that's, going to have gangbangers and, people that are engaged in illegal narcotics sales, and all of that happens. So we've seen this happen time and time again. And if you can turn it around and those bars can still make a profit, because they're not going to stay in business unless they're making money, if they can make a profit in a way that doesn't attract those kinds of criminal activities, it's in their best interest as well as the neighborhood to do it. So we're hoping that the bars on Division Street get the message and move in that direction.
Yeah, I would love to see that. I'm looking forward to seeing what the streetscape eventually looks like in that area. Alderman, while I have you, I was curious if I could ask you about this Bally's situation. We've got Bally's building this casino. It looks like you were one of the 27 members of the Chicago City Council that signed this letter trying to get Bally's to resume construction on this project. They had slowed development on some of that build. What's the latest on that?
Yeah, well, we haven't received a response from Bally's yet. I think they're probably looking ahead to litigation. This is going to wind up in court. At some point. There's so much money at stake, both for Bally's and for the taxpayers of Chicago, who made this agreement, with the casino operator so it could help generate revenue for our pension funds that we desperately need. So the current Bally's casino has been underperforming expectations by a pretty significant margin. They're just not competing effectively in today's highly competitive gaming and gambling world. So things are changing. Things have changed since we entered into this host agreement initially, and they're going to need to change. And Bally's is trying to fight to protect their interest. I understand that. But my job isn't to help Bally's. My job is to help the taxpayers of Chicago. Mm-hmm. And if we can do that by expanding other types of gaming functions that are going to generate further tax money for us, we need to do that. We need to go forward with this. So we'll see how this plays out. There's a lot of moving parts to this. Again, there's things that nobody really contemplated would be happening when the host city agreement was first drafted, and Bally's won the award over my objections and along with some of my colleagues who did not think that they were the best company to take over. And that's been brought to bear, I think, in the trouble that they've had. There's been a lot of difficulty with this project. they're also having difficulty in Las Vegas in a completely unrelated project that they're trying to develop out there, where they can't get financing to build their hotels in Las Vegas. So this is a company that's increasingly desperate, and their backs are against the wall. So I think they're trying something that they think might help, but in the long term, ceasing construction operations while they're in the middle of a project is going to add significantly to their labor and materials costs when they're already struggling to pay their bills. The future for Bally's right now is very much in question as a company.
Yeah, and I wanted to actually ask you about that, because you said that you had concerns initially. What were those concerns before Bally's entered in this agreement?
Well, the primary concern was their lack of experience in dealing with a major multi-billion-dollar project like this. The name Bally's has its roots in Chicago. It's a very famous name associated with the gaming and gambling industry, but this was a private equity group that just stepped in and bought it. They bought the name Bally's, they bought the company, and they had little to no experience managing casinos or overseeing major construction projects of hotels and other properties like the one in question here. So my concern was that they were way out over their skis, and they did not have the ability to follow through on some of the promises and commitments that we were asking them to make in the host city agreement. The other companies that were also interested in getting this contract seemed to me to be much better equipped, greater capital, much better reputation in the stock market and the other capital markets, and certainly wouldn't be in the predicament that we're seeing today with Bally's, where they're struggling to get financing because they're just not seen as viable by the marketplace. So that was my big concern. My other concern was the location. I thought Chicago and Halstead was among the worst of the locations that we were considering for a land-based casino. After all these years waiting for a land-based casino in Chicago, we had one chance to get it right with the location, and I think we got it wrong. It's not the best location. So we'll see how it plays out. Obviously, it's too late to do anything about that now. The building is half done. Mm-hmm. So we're just going to have to live with the results of this bad decision that Mayor Lightfoot, more than anyone else, really pushed us to do this. She did the best that she could to make sure that Bally's was the company that was picked, and Halstead in Chicago was the location. And I think she got it dramatically and tragically wrong. And here we are having to live with the results of that very bad decision.
That's actually what happens next in this. I know that, like I mentioned, this letter was signed by you along with several other of the city council members. What happens next? What do you want to see from Bally's? What do you want to see from this letter?
Yeah, that's a good question. Again, I have to make decisions in the best interest of the taxpayers. And despite my opposition to Bally's, we're now tied to them. Their success is our success. So even as I'm a critic of the decisions that they're making, I need them to succeed, as we all do. We're counting on the revenue that they will eventually generate to help support our pension funds, which desperately needs it. So I'm not cheering for them to drop the ball any more than they already have. On the contrary, I need them to get their act together and succeed, so we can succeed. Now, if they don't, if something happens, and again, I mentioned the Las Vegas situation that they're struggling with because it's relevant as we assess the overall health and viability of this company right now. Their future is tenuous. There's some real doubt about what they're going to do. They might wind up trying to sell their interests to someone else, or be the results of a merger with another larger company. All that will have a direct impact on their operations in Chicago, and that's beyond my ability as an alderman to have an impact on. So we're just kind of going along for that ride, hoping for the best, while increasingly being concerned that it's not going in the direction that we need it to go.
And I do want to ask you about the tie into pensions. The pension issue in Chicago is a big one. There's a lot of money riding on it. There's a lot of people who are depending on that money. And I just want to catch people up who may not be completely familiar. Can you talk a little bit about the tie-in to the pensions? This is how we're going to solve that problem?
Well, it's part of the solution. You know, the pensions, all of our pension funds, not just the police and fire and the public safety funds, but they all are underfunded and they all need new sources of revenue. And we're constantly looking for new sources of revenue. And this project was sold to the voters of Chicago as a potential solution, not a total solution, but at least a partial solution to our pension underfunding problem, because we will collect a share of the gaming revenue as through our tax, you know, our gambling tax on every dollar that is in profit that's generated by the land-based casino. So that was the reason that we went forward with it after all these years of not being able to get a land-based casino license in Chicago. It became politically possible once people realized, and once elected officials in both the State General Assembly and the City of Chicago realized that it could potentially generate money to help us reduce our unfunded pension liability. So that's how we sold it to the taxpayers. And yet here we are, you know, again, looking at the continued operations of the temporary casino not meeting expectations in the amount of money that it's capable of contributing to reduce the pension liability, just isn't living up to what was promised.
All right. It sounds like there are still a lot of questions that have to be answered, and also we want to see where this goes. We want to see the doors open, obviously. Alderman Hopkins, thank you for being with us. This was a really great conversation, from the Division Street to talking about this Bally's issue. It's really been good to have you.
Thanks for having me, Liz.
Appreciate it. Okay, so Chicago Live continues. I believe we're taking a break. Are we taking a break? All right, we're going to take a break. This is my first go around in Chicago Live, so I'm kind of learning the ropes here. But yeah, we're going to take a break. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. Good to have you here. So we're talking about the big story. I feel like that's been this whole week has been the weather. Emily, I wanted to ask you about this because you had mentioned this, I think on the Loop. You had a big graphic that had the number 68.
Yes.
What is 68 tornadoes? What is
so
that?
That is our tornado count for the Chicago National Weather Service forecast area so far this year, and that's record breaking. So just a few years ago in 2024, we set a new record with 63 tornadoes. We've already surpassed that. at, it's only the middle of August. So unfortunately, that number is going to continue to go up. It's just been such an active year.
That's crazy. And that's the thing. It's been such an active year because I even see people making little joke reels about it. Like, we want our money back on the summer.
Yeah.
This is not normal.
No, not normal at all. So actually, if you look at the averages, if we were to look over the last 30 years, the 30-year average for tornado count in this region is only 16 a year. If you look at the 20-year average, it's a little bit higher, up to about 18, and then the 10-year average is 26. So we can say that each decade, we're seeing more in this region. But to have a number in the upper 60s, 68, and by the way, the National Weather Service, they're actually out surveying more areas today from yesterday's derecho. And that is in Northwest Indiana. They didn't mention which communities that they're going to, but they are going to a couple sites in Northwest Indiana and then also the far southwest suburbs. So the tornado count likely is going to go up when we get the results of those surveys later today.
Now, I am not a weather person. I know very little, which is why I'm so appreciative of you folks, but you mentioned the term derecho.
Yes.
What is that exactly?
So basically, it's a long-lived wind storm. So oftentimes it's coming along with a line of thunderstorms, and you need 240 miles or greater of wind damage. So that's what we had. We were just a small fraction of that, in our area. So it began west of the area and it plowed right on well southeast of our area. So again, it was classified as a derecho. And actually, a lot of folks in this area remember the derecho of 2020. It was very, very destructive. It was one of the most costly events in the U.S. in modern history. And that was only 6 years and 1 day prior to the derecho that we just had.
No way. That's kind of creepy.
It is. The night before we were hit with that, so Monday night, we were actually doing a story during the 9 p.m. news talking about the 2020 derecho. And, when we woke up Tuesday morning, it was almost as if we were like, did we make this happen? Right? Like it was expected to be a very, active morning, but
I don't think we expected anything like that.
We didn't quite expect it to be that
bad.
Yes.
Yeah,
I mean, we were looking at wind speeds in parts of Northwest Indiana potentially as high as 100 to 120 miles per hour. That's equivalent to an EF2. And you have that on a straight line, for a much larger path than what a tornado would do. So that's why we're seeing just incredible damage around the area, and as well as power outages.
Power outages as well. I think NIPSCO had mentioned, I think it was 270, I think I had 275,000 written down. It might be 276 at this point. So I guess that's the question, because now we got to get the power restored. We got to get the trees cleaned up and the roofs repaired. So what is the rest of the week looking like?
It doesn't look good.
That's not good.
We have more storm chances every single day, all the way through this upcoming weekend. Our next chance of a dry day is going to be Monday.
Holy cow.
But it's going to be more of the same. So if you were to look outside right now, we're starting to see some sunshine. We're getting a break from the showers.
I thought we were going to have a break because I'm looking out there going, oh, it's nice.
Yeah. So we're getting a little break now. But it's kind of the same weather pattern that we're going to be stuck in, where at some point during the day, we're seeing the showers and storms coming through, some of which may end up becoming strong or severe. And then once they pass through, you get a break, and the rest of the day is fine. So I think we're still going to have plenty of dry hours for crews to get back to work and, trying to restore the power. But unfortunately, I think we're going to have to hit that pause button almost every single day coming up. I did want to show everybody the power outages. So if
let's
call
do
up
it.
that map, we've been keeping a very close eye on this because Northwest Indiana had just incredible outages, especially Lake County. Now, we have seen some improvements, and what you're looking at here isn't obviously the number of power outages.
Yeah, what
but
does this mean?
This is the percentage of the county that is without power. So in Lake County, Indiana now, we are just shy of 90%. The highest that I saw it yesterday was 95.5%.
That's basically everybody.
Basically everybody.
Yeah.
So we're seeing some improvements, but there's places like Newton County and Porter County, they're still close to 50% as an outage. And in Will County, we're at 19%. That's been a really big improvement since yesterday, however. In Will County, we were actually up to about 32, 33%. So we have seen improvements across northeastern Illinois, but unfortunately, Northwest Indiana, we're still in the dark in many locations, but now we're getting a break from the rain. So hopefully, we're able to start moving in the right direction here.
And I did want to, I have a million notes here from the governor's press conference in Indiana, but you mentioned Lake County, and I know that they're talking about that one dead from the storms yesterday in Jennings County was that 4-year-old after a tree fell on a home, but then they mentioned there may be 2 other deaths related to these storms, one in Lake County and then one in Porter County as well. So that is going to be interesting to see if they do figure out if those deaths were connected, but it's just a heartbreaking situation.
Well, and it's really devastating. And also, I just want to mention, so whenever we're doing severe weather coverage, we're looking down at our laptops all the time because we're in constant communication with the National Weather Service.
That's good.
And the language that was being used yesterday as these storms were moving into Northwest Indiana, it gave you chills.
Really?
Like some of the things that were coming out was, it was a message to basically anybody that was in the Indiana Dunes area to get as far away from trees as, I'm getting goosebumps talking about this.
No, as you said that, it's chilling.
Yeah, get as far away from trees as you possibly can, because when winds are potentially 100 miles per hour or higher, trees are weapons.
Yeah.
It was really just such a devastating day that we had yesterday, and waking up this morning and dealing with another line of storms coming through. It's kicking us while we're down.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think what's interesting, and this isn't me pumping up our station, but it kind of is, because local news is so important during these times, and especially when you look outside and it's beautiful right now, but another storm may move in, and you're thinking, how do I even plan my day? How do I know when to go out and clean the trees out of my yard? So it's really important to be dialed into what you folks are talking about. I know we've got a really useful app that will do that as well, and I think all those things, we need to plan ahead before we're in the middle of a storm.
Yeah, and we always say, make sure you have ways of getting severe weather alerts, something that's going to be able to wake you up. Another good example of that was Sunday night. We had 2 EF1s that touched down over in LaSalle County, and it was in the middle of the night. It was right around midnight that happened. So, folks are taken by surprise. That's why we're always saying, make sure you have apps or ways to be woken up. Again, plugging our Fox 32 weather app.
It's a good app and it's easy to use.
It is, and you can actually, I know whenever we download apps, it's always like, would you like to share your location? Sometimes that can feel invasive, but for an app like this where you can get life-saving information, weather information, you really want to have your location plugged into that. And there's also a feature too that you can actually decide other locations that you would like as well. So say your kids live somewhere else, you can plug in their counties and get notifications when stuff's going through other locations too.
Man, it was scary. I just moved here from Seattle not that long ago, where you're having like the most mundane weather for months and months and months. But it reminded me of when I lived in Oklahoma City. I lived in Oklahoma City for 3 years, and I did not miss that. And then I moved here and I'm going, this feels like the plane, like being back in the plains again.
Well, and that's another big conversation is, where is Tornado Alley? Are we a part of it now? And this year so far, so we have at least 200 confirmed tornadoes now in the state of Illinois. Again, that number continues to rise. But the record for a single state is with Texas for the yearly tornado count. It's 232, and that was set back in 2015.
Oh, man.
We're already at 200, and it's only August. So Illinois has a very real possibility.
We're getting up there.
That we may rival the record for a single state tornado count for a year.
And I just wonder if our infrastructure is ready to sustain something like that.
Well,
if you think about all the things in Oklahoma, you had like different storm shelters and weather radio, and are we ready for that life?
Right, and in the Midwest, a lot of homes around here, a lot of homes are built with basements.
So true.
But you're right. We have to start kind of thinking ahead. Like, is this our new normal? I've only been in the market now for about 5 years, and every single year we have far exceeded the average tornado count. And 3 of those years were record-breaking years. So in 2023, we broke the tornado record with 50-some, and then in 2024, we broke it with 63. This year, we're breaking that record again, now with 68. So, you have to make sure that you're planning ahead.
Yeah, planning ahead for sure, and trying to figure out when, because that's what I was thinking today. Because I'm going, if I have our front yard filled with trees, do I just let it go and then go after these storms, or do I try to go out there right now and get everything fixed? It's because it's really been like 1 hour's great, the next hour is sunny, the next hour there's a storm. It's been chaotic.
It's been very chaotic, and I wish I had better news that things were going to change. I'll actually pop the 7-day way up for you
Oh,
here. We have a lot of showers and thunderstorms that are going to continue for the next several days. We're looking at that continuing right on into the weekend. It's a really big weekend around here. We have
There's a lot going on.
Yeah.
The Bears.
The Bears, but the Chicago Air and Water Show as well. And I think we're going to see some impacts with that, and that's always such a bummer because it's it's a one weekend special, right? And if they can get it in, then it works out great. But if they can't, then we just miss out on the year.
What are you going to do? I mean, honestly, at the very end of the day, we need to be safe. Safety first. People, we need to keep people. It's you're right. It stinks.
Yeah.
You don't want to see it happen.
Right.
But man, I don't want to be in the middle of these storms.
No, not at all. What I will say is what the forecast looks like right now, I don't see anything like what we just went through.
That's good.
Yes.
Okay.
So I think tomorrow we do have a small chance of a couple isolated strong to severe storms possible in places like LaSalle County, portions of southern Grundy County, western Kankakee County. But everywhere else, they should just be your average thunderstorms. The brief heavy downpours, the thunder, lightning, and then they pass and they're over with.
That's what we love.
Yes.
I love a Midwest summer storm like that.
That's what we need.
Yeah.
So it looks like tomorrow we should mostly be in the clear from severe weather with the exception of the far southwest. And then as of now, I'm not seeing severe weather on Friday, Saturday, or Sunday, but it will be something to watch for us as we get a little bit closer. 7-day forecast for you. Temperature-wise, we are going to be in the lower 80s, which, by the way, is very seasonable.
Yeah,
so at least
that's
we have
nice.
the warmth
in
between the showers and storms, but just very rainy, on and off. I don't want you to look at this, though, and think that it's going to rain all day.
Right.
So,
No, that's a good point.
None of these days are going to be a wash. It's going to
Okay.
be very similar to what we've had. We'll get a round of showers, whether it's in the morning, whether it's in the afternoon, and then we'll clear right back out. Next week looks much better. I think we're going to be able to rest easy.
It really does. 78 and sunny. Are you
78
kidding
and
me?
sunny.
Yeah.
Give me the days off. Like, you don't need me right now. Yeah, after this week, I think all of the meteorologists next week, we're going to be tapped out.
Oh my gosh, you folks have been working so hard. I mean, and thank you for that, because it's true. It's not, when you see a forecast like that, you go, okay, when exactly is that 50% going to happen?
Yeah.
Is it going to be at 1, or is it going to be, I'm on the way to pick up my kids?
Right.
You want to know exactly when. So thank you so much. You guys have been working. I wish you could see. It's like night and day.
We're just here around the clock.
Around the clock.
But you know what? We, fortunately, at least I can speak for myself and my team, we have not been impacted so much by the storms that we're dealing with damage and power outages.
That's true.
So, I'm fortunate for that, and because of that, we can work around the clock for everybody else.
It's a lot to be grateful for.
Yeah, so
for
much.
sure.
Yeah.
I mean, when the lights come on and you're going, thank goodness.
Yes.
Thank goodness I'm okay. Thank goodness my family's
Well,
safe.
and especially when you think about, again, places like Lake County, nearly 90% of people are still without power.
And it could be days, it sounds like, after hearing that press conference. It could be days for restoration, because they have so many people to try and get turned back on for the
and you
power.
think about places like hospitals,
Yeah.
right? So I saw there was a hospital in Crown Point.
Oh, yeah.
And, just kind of asking, do we have any sort of restoration time? Do we know what's happening? We have patients on ventilators, and fortunately they have a generator, but
Thank
their
goodness.
air conditioner isn't able to work on the generator. So patients are uncomfortable, and, there's so many layers.
Yeah.
To power outages, especially when it looks like it's going to be an extended event.
Yeah, that's so true. Emily, thank you.
You're very welcome.
Man, this is good information. And download the app.
Yes.
It's true. Yesterday, when all the warnings came on the phone and the sirens were going off, it was scary.
Yeah.
So you got to know what to do beforehand.
And also, I want to mention the EAS notices that go out.
Yeah.
So that's when your phone really starts making the crazy sound,
That was
like
nuts.
you cannot sleep through it,
Yeah.
right? But unfortunately, there is a way to turn that off, and I think a lot of people actually do that.
Okay.
Because I've had a lot of questions on Facebook and Instagram, and people asking like, my phone didn't go off.
why didn't I get it?
I get it? And so make sure that those settings are checked on your phone.
Mm-hmm.
If you did not get an alert that was very, very loud to the point where you're about to throw your phone across the room, right? That's what you want to do when you hear that sound. Check your settings. Make sure they're on, because you only get those in essentially life-threatening scenarios.
Yeah.
It's not going to go off every time that there's a severe thunderstorm warning, unless it's a destructive warning, meaning 80+ mile per hour winds, or if there's a destructive observed tornado as well.
And we were in it.
Yeah.
We were in it. So we did get those alerts. It was terrifying. We were up here in a news meeting. We're all sitting around the table, and all our phones just start going off, and the sky got really dark.
Yeah.
it was very scary, but there's a lot to be grateful for today because we're okay, we're safe.
Yes.
I know a lot of other folks are in worse situations right now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Emily, thanks.
You're welcome.
It's good meeting you, by the way.
It's good to meet you.
We literally met today for the first time.
We did, just downstairs. Nice to meet you.
So, this has been fun. Yeah. All right, so let's send it over to break here. Chicago Live continues after this.
Chicago.
All right, welcome back to Chicago Live. And my producer was just showing me the total eclipse that is happening in Europe. There it is. I'm glad we can show you this right now. So this is the eclipse happening right now. This is a pretty spectacular show. Obviously, you're not watching this live because it's happening in Europe. Basically, the first moments of the total solar eclipse, they started about 12:30-ish our time here in Chicago, but it began in Russia, where totality was expected to kick off about 1 p.m., I believe, our time. It might have been a little bit earlier than that. But then it moves across the Arctic before becoming visible in Greenland. I'm actually watching I'm also watching an extra feed. I'm kind of a space nerd, so I'm watching a Royal Observatory Greenwich feed also. Over the next few hours, the totality in areas like Spain, also in Iceland, a small corner of Portugal as well. Oh, so actually the shot we have right now is in Iceland. So that's what you're looking at right here. The whole eclipse is 1 hour and 45 minutes. So really, really beautiful. People travel far and wide to go see these things in person. Unfortunately, if you're watching like me on a TV, you didn't do that this time. But here in the United States, the next total solar eclipse is going to happen on August 22nd, 2044, excuse me. Totality will only occur, though, over North Dakota and Montana. So if you are interested in seeing one of these things live, which, like I said, I think I saw a couple years ago, there was one across the United States where people were traveling and renting Airbnbs to go out and see this thing. But you'd have to go to North Dakota and Montana because it sounds like we won't get much of a view here. But we've also got a few years to plan. We've got about 20 years to plan for this thing. But really, really incredible shot there. So wanted to show that to you live because it's only happening for a little while longer. Just amazing there. The partial solar eclipse this afternoon. Okay, we're also following some top stories here across Chicago. I know the big story has been the weather, and I know we're talking a lot about it, but there's been a lot going on. We heard from Governor Mike Braun in Indiana, I want to say it was about an hour or so ago when he was in Hammond, Indiana, just talking about the restoration of the power outages there, talking about that state of emergency. What I took from that was the loss of life. They mentioned one child was dead after those storms yesterday. A 4-year-old child was killed in Jennings County. It sounds like from the Department of Homeland Security in Indiana that a tree fell on a home. So that was just heartbreaking. They're also investigating that 2 other deaths might also be related to some of the storms we've experienced in Lake and Porter counties. At this point in Indiana, 276,000 people are without power, and we're talking about prolonged outages. And that sounded like the most important thing for the state to get together and make sure that they could do was restoring the power, especially in Indiana, because you've got people who don't have power in their homes. They're trying to go to the gas stations. They're trying to fill the gas cans for the generators. You've got power lines down. You've got trees down. And a lot of things can't happen, of course, until you have that power back on. They are watching for price gouging at some of the gas stations as well, because I don't know if you caught Chicago's morning news this morning, but Indiana police were saying, don't go to the gas stations. We don't have a lot of gas stations that have gas. There's lines of people waiting to get gas. They can't get gas. And we did go to one of those gas stations and saw just horrendous lines. So they're watching for price gouging. They said they haven't seen anything like that just yet. But debris removal is also an issue. They're trying to cover a lot of territory with that. And they're just asking people in some of these towns in Indiana, if you're watching right now, to reach out to public officials and mention if you have damage, if you see damage in your area, because they're trying to survey the areas and take note of some of that damage. But just heartbreaking situation here. And then in Illinois, we've got 138. Actually, I want to double check that number because I checked the ComEd number just a while ago, and I haven't double checked it since. ComEd that's been changed. Okay, so that's changed a little bit. Just a few hours ago, it was about 138,000, and right now it's at 130,000 total customers impacted. So that's a lot of power outages that we're dealing with after some of these storms. And we just heard from Emily a couple minutes ago, and she was saying, you know, the worst is not over just yet. We could still see some severe weather. We could still see some rain, and that's going to be a pain in the butt too, especially if you have damage to clean up. So wanted to talk a little bit about that and some of the issues there. We, of course, are tracking the storms. Thank goodness for our amazing meteorologists. I was a little nervous yesterday because when the sirens go off in downtown Chicago, it's pretty jarring, that is for sure. Also making headlines here, everyone's talking about the primaries. The primaries across the United States, a lot of these smaller races, or what would just be considered, you know, state races, are making national headlines. You've got this Crawley versus Tiffany face-off here in Madison, Wisconsin, for the primary for governor. Moderate Democrat David Crawley ended up defeating a Democratic socialist who fell a little bit short, trying to deliver another win for progressives in what is considered a battleground state. So that will be interesting to see Crawley and Tiffany face off in November. It looks like right now polls are showing a very tight race. So now that that is wrapped up, we are looking ahead to the midterms on November 3rd. Okay. I think that is everything we're following right now. We are going to send it to break. We have much more here on Chicago Live. Keep it close. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We're rounding out our hour here, 1:56 for your time right now. So we want to talk a little bit more about the big story of the week, those storms. A lot of towns are cleaning up after all those storms rolled through. We got Brian Mitchell on the horn here. He's the city administrator with Country Club Hills. Brian, really appreciate you joining us. Good afternoon.
Good afternoon to you as well.
Okay, so first off, I'm sorry for what the whole community is dealing with. I mean, these storms have been so wild. People are just, I mean, this is a really stressful situation for a lot of folks. Can you talk about the situation in Country Club Hills specifically?
Absolutely. We've been out since the storm came yesterday early. Clearly, it's an unfortunate situation. We just up from the last storms and to be hit with this again, and to have several residents with extensive damage, water in basements, and more than that, electricity out again. We understand that it's a state of emergency and everybody is helping one another. You see residents now out speaking with their neighbors, helping their neighbors clear, debris, get everything out to the street. Our public works crew is out. We also have 3 contractors out trying to help clean up the town. The unfortunate part is, out in the south suburbs, we don't have a lot of resources, and many times we often count on our neighboring communities. I've received 2 calls from other neighboring communities. Right now, everybody's on their own because we're all dealing with the same emergency, which is just so unfortunate, but yet and still, we have to continue making sure that we provide safety and get the town cleaned back up.
I want to ask you about the safety part of this. How are people in the community doing? Has anyone been displaced? Do you know of any situations like that where, I mean, obviously the power is an issue. Where can people go if they don't have power, or maybe their home is kind of, messed up?
Yeah, clearly, anytime we have a situation like this, we always make sure that if the residents need to have a place to come, we do have a couple facilities. The fire stations we use, our fire station on 175th Street we would use. If we need to open up City Hall or our recreational center, we will open that. As of now, we haven't found the need, and we haven't had too many residents other than calling, trying to make sure that we're staying in contact with ComEd, which I'm talking to ComEd somewhere between every 3 to 4 hours getting updates in terms of the outages.
What has ComEd told you so far? Because I just looked at, let's see, I'm checking the outages right now, and I'm seeing 129,000. So what's the situation where you are with ComEd? What have they told you?
Right. The last report I got from ComEd, we started off at about 1,400 residents out, and we're now down to, this morning as about 8:30, down to about 825 residents. So I'm hopeful that now, since this morning, ComEd has been out. They've got their contractors out. I'm hoping that the next report I get in a couple hours will have at least a couple hundred more people with their power being restored.
Mm-hmm. Are there any parts of town specifically that come to mind when you think of maybe the most intense damage?
So the majority of the damage from yesterday was from 183rd Street to Flossmoor Road, and then using Cicero as the dividing line, east and west of those 2 points of 183rd and Flossmoor Road. That's where the most extensive damage has been that we found. Clearly, our fire department has been out, Public Works has been out. We've been checking on residents. We want to make sure that no one is hurt. Up until now, I have not received any reports of any extensive or any bodily harm. So, right now, it's just a matter of cleaning back up again and trying to prepare for hopefully better days in the city of Country Club Hills.
Oh man, well I'm glad you said that, because I was actually curious if anyone was hurt. So it's good to hear that people are not hurt, that they are safe for the most part. And lastly, how are your crews doing? How is everyone doing? This just seems like it's been a 24-hour thing.
Our crews and staff has been great. We've been taking in a lot of calls. We've been trying to provide as many answers and updates. The mayor has been very much involved. He and I have been out to different areas that have been impacted. For us, it's about trying to provide whatever support we can as the city and to give answers to the residents that right now may not necessarily be getting answers from ComEd. How do you get an answer from ComEd when your power is out? You can't charge your phone. You don't have, access to TV, radio. other than sitting in your car. So, we're trying to be the ones and the catalyst to kind of make sure that we provide that communication the best we can when we get it.
All right, Brian, thank you so much for being with us. Stay safe, and we are thinking of you and the entire community as everyone cleans up after this wild weather week. Thank you for being with us.
Well, we definitely appreciate it, and make sure you keep not only our community, but all the communities that have dealt with this damage and their families in prayer, and we'll get through it.
10,000%. Brian, thank you. Appreciate you here. All right, it is just after 2 o'clock right now here on Chicago Live. I see Miss Tia Ewing over there. She's ready to take the reins, so we'll be right back with more here.
Welcome back to Chicago Live. Our colleague here, Liz DeWicki, just wrapped up her hour of Chicago Live, and now you have me, Tia Ewing. I'll be with you for the remaining 2 hours. Of course, we're going to get to some conversations about storm damage. We know we've had a lot of that across our area, including really impacted Indiana. So we are going to be talking to some folks across the Chicagoland area regarding some of that storm damage today. We're going to be talking to folks in Homewood, Illinois, about what they're doing in terms of cleanup. We're also going to be discussing cleanup in Lansing as well, so you'll have to stick around for that. We're also going to be talking to the mother of Jelani Day. You'll remember that name because in 2021, Jelani Day, just a college student, was found dead in the Illinois River. His mother has been pushing for justice ever since. She turned her pain into purpose, creating this foundation in her late son's name. They're going to have their 4th annual gala, so we're going to be talking to her about that. Ben Crump, attorney Ben Crump, is the keynote speaker for that, so we will have that conversation with her as well as talking about BBB scams. The Better Business Bureau wants to warn people about some of these weather scams that are out there. You know, a tree comes down, it falls on your property. You want to get it removed as quickly as possible, get back to normal as quickly as possible. Who to lean to, who not to lean to in terms of making sure that damage is cleaned up. We're going to talk to the Better Business Bureau about that. We're also going to be talking to the mayor of Gary. We know there was a press conference earlier today in Hammond, Indiana, where several northwestern Indiana mayors were present there because the governor was speaking about the situation in Indiana Indiana, declaring it an emergency there, and really what that means now for Gary specifically moving forward as well as other parts of Northwest Indiana. At last check, we know there were several power outages, 276,000 people still without power. And as of right now, there's no real timeline on when most of those customers will see restoration. So we'll be following that as well right here on Chicago Live. A very interesting fact that Emily Walls, our meteorologist, put out earlier today. She's put this out to us in an email. It said 68 tornadoes this year recorded by the Chicago National Weather Service, and previous record was 63. Obviously, we've surpassed that record, and we know that the National Weather Service actually has tornado surveyors in Northwest Indiana right now and in the southwest suburbs trying to determine if some of what we saw, this just widespread damage, is indeed contributed to tornadoes. I'm sure we'll be learning that within the coming day, if not sooner. So stick with us right here on Chicago Live for there. I want to go to something that we didn't discuss just yet, and that's Rosemont. If you've gone to the mall there in Rosemont, the fashion outlets of Chicago, I happen to be a frequent shopper there. At one point, they were charging for parking, and we know there was someone who was not in support of this, and he did sound the alarm on it pretty early on, but it still happened, and that's Mayor Brad Stevens of Rosemont. We want to bring him into the conversation because it sounds like what's happening now, there's a reverse of course on this pay to park policy there at the mall. Thank you so much for taking time out to talk to us. Double check, make sure you're not muted, because I don't hear you. I see you just fine, but I don't hear you just yet, Mayor. But let me walk into this. So what we know is that this was put in place in February, where people would have to essentially pay for parking. I think it offered you maybe like an hour free, and then after that, the first hour was free, and then after that, $13 for 1 to 3 hours, and then that price would increase. Starting today, actually, parking will be free for the first 3 hours. And this is what we're hearing from the folks there over at the mall. We want to talk more in-depthly about that with the mayor. Mayor, you're there. Thank you so much for taking time out for us. Can you hear me?
How are you?
Oh, I'm doing well. Okay.
All right. That's much better.
All right. I'm happy that we're rocking and rolling. You were not in support of this initially back in May. You said, hey, I think this will cause people not to go to the mall as much, which we know that's a good portion of bringing money into the area. Talk about what's happened between that time and where we are today.
Well, when the mall originally opened, they charged for parking, and we had to convince them at that point that that wasn't going to be a good thing. Suburban shoppers, suburban malls, people don't expect to pay for parking. And we drove that home with the First Investment Group, and they walked it back. Recently, I think it was maybe late winter, early spring, they enacted this charge for parking, and we were dead set against it, as we knew what happened in the first days. We stayed on top of that. We reminded them that the suburban shopper does not want to pay for parking, and that's just a few extra dollars that would be taken out of the cash register. So they needed to rethink that. They have now changed that and reverted to 3 hours of free parking. And I think that might still be a little short, because there are some folks that like to spend, several hours at a mall and having lunch and whatnot. But you know what? Baby steps. We're happy that they made this decision to go to that. There's some new stores that are coming online, Old Navy and others, that are exciting. So hopefully this helps those retailers out that, we're seeing a little bit of the foot traffic die down.
I want to talk to you about that part of it, because that mall obviously gets a lot of foot traffic, not just from people within the Chicagoland area, but you're pretty close to the airport as well. Within that 5 months that this was instated, when it was there, do you know if there was an actual decrease in foot traffic going to the mall?
Yes, their own numbers have been generated, and originally it started out at the first month, I think it was almost 16% of the foot traffic died down. Now, again, that was, March, and maybe that's not a great shopping time, but again, they're in double digits, and I hope that this makes a good rebound and gets back to what it was, because it's a great mall, and a lot of the suburban shoppers love coming there. But again, the mindset is that they just don't want to pay for parking in the suburbs, and I think that they've seen that and seen the light there, basically.
No, you have a good problem there in Rosemont, because we've seen across other areas where people just aren't going to the malls at all anymore. And so the issue has become, not enough stores in the mall eventually shuts down. That's not the case there. Can you talk to me about, how the mall contributes to the overall big picture here of finances coming into Rosemont?
Well, the mall generates a lot of revenue with sales tax to the village. Before the mall opened, the village received somewhere in the $5 to $7 million annually in sales tax. We're up there over $20 million in sales tax, real estate taxes. So it's a huge contributor, but it also brings those people to the community, and it's an amenity for the people that are staying in our 6,000 hotel rooms that might be here for a night or two, and it gives them an opportunity to get out and walk around. Now, the parking shouldn't affect them because the hotel buses drop off there, but at the end of the day, it's a great amenity to our community. They've done some phenomenal things with artwork in the mall, and again, we're pleased with the operation. It's just that we thought really strongly that the pay for parking was going to be somewhat detrimental to some of the business there.
Do you think some of the disconnect possibly is, the executives that kind of oversee this mall, they're based on the West Coast, Santa Monica, California, I believe. I think there's kind of like maybe a disconnect here in what, Chicagoans have come to expect, at a mall, maybe versus the West Coast. Do you think that plays into this at all?
It could, and at the end of the day, this is owned by Macerich, which is a big corporation, and I understand they need to be responsive to their shareholders, and it could have been along the lines of that they needed to generate some more revenue to make an impact on those folks on Wall Street. But I think at the end of the day, there are tenants that are in that mall that pay, a percentage-based rent, so a percentage of their sales is what they pay in rent. And I'm not sure that those numbers balanced out and that it made sense for them in the long run. And we're going to be proactive and screaming from the mountaintop that they're back to the first 3 hours that's free, and we're going to make sure that people know, and hopefully the mall joins us in that effort to let people know. Unfortunately, when we make a mistake, we've got to admit it and move on and create a better situation, and hopefully we can do that in partnership.
No, very well said there. I do want to go to this point. It had been out there that people were saying that people would park there for free and then fly out of O'Hare. Any truth to that? And have you ever heard that before?
Well, the folks at the upper management of the mall of Macerich have made that comment as well. I don't necessarily see that. The mall is right next to our current village hall, so we see that the top level of that parking deck rarely is full, and that the only times that happens is around the holidays, and where actually they overflow into our Rosemont Theater parking lot, and we're happy for that. But I'm not sure that happens, and we have told them repeatedly that there's a way that we might be able to do some intergovernmental cooperation where we can ticket those cars and tow them and take them off the property. And the first time that happens, usually that message gets sent loud and clear to folks that they don't want to do that anymore. The proximity to the airport is always a challenge with any of our parking lots around here. So again, we're more than happy to work with them on finding a better solution than, charging for parking for people that want to stay at the mall more than 3 hours.
All right. Well, now that I've interviewed you, I know I'll get premium parking. Mayor Brad Stevens of Rosemont, thank you so much for your time today on Chicago Live. We appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
All right, you do the same. Okay, coming your way next, we want to talk about generator safety. We know there are a lot of people out there right now, especially in Northwest Indiana, parts of Lansing as well, using generators, Homewood as well. There are some things that you need to know in order to remain safe. If you want that electricity on at your home, stick with us right here on Chicago Live. We're going to break it all down when we come right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live, 2:18 on your Wednesday afternoon here. I want to bring into the conversation, we've been talking about storm damage, pretty widespread across our area in Homewood. It's no different there. Sean Faulkner, he's the Assistant Director of Public Works. Sean, thank you so much. I know you have power there where you are. Village Hall does not, and there's some other areas in Homewood that don't have power right now. So I know we're taking you away from maybe some of the other things you'd normally be doing, but we appreciate you coming on. I want to start out with a video. It blew up for us here at Fox 32 yesterday. There was a village street supervisor that was trapped inside of this front loader because those power lines came down right on that machinery. He was in there at least for 3 hours. How is he doing as of now?
He's doing great. He's a very patient man, as you can imagine. He was in there for 3.5 hours, and he immediately called us, and we called 911 immediately to help expedite getting him out. And again, he's doing great. He's back today, leading his crew and doing well.
Sean, right now we are showing some images. This is from a home in Homewood because apparently the fire department has been inundated with a ton of calls for CO alarms going off because people are using these generators. I want you to talk about generator safety here, the do's and the don'ts. What should people not be doing when it comes to making sure they power up their homes with these generators?
Well, they should not be using their generator that close to the house, not in the house or in the garage. A generator should be used probably 20 feet, minimum 20 feet away from the house and away from any windows, doors, or ventilations to keep carbon monoxide out. That is the biggest danger.
Yeah.
You can't see carbon monoxide, you can't smell it, can't taste it, and within minutes it can become deadly.
In those images, what are we seeing? Did the person actually have the generator on the inside of their home?
No, they ended up being right next to the house, and the exhaust was blowing up against the house and then pluming off the brick. So it made it look like the house was on fire. But the main takeaway from that is to always also point the exhaust of your generator away from the home so that it doesn't get in through any windows, doors, or ventilation areas.
No, that's a very good point, because you don't want to have to deal with the storms. The next thing you know, you're dealing with a fire or even a death because of running these generators. I want you to bring me up to speed on what's going on in Homewood. I know there were a lot of trees down. There are some surveyors from the National Weather Service that's in the southwest suburbs right now trying to determine what's going on there. This isn't the first time in the last few weeks that Homewood has gone through this. Where are you in terms of cleanup in the village?
Well, we definitely, yesterday was a setback. We were probably about 60% through our first, what we call our first wave from the last tornado of cleaning up the north side of town. Then this came through yesterday, and we're basically now on the south side doing the same thing. So it definitely hurt us, but our crews are out there working hard. Our contractors out there working hard. We've had some trees on houses that the contractor is taking care of, but our crews are working hard, and we're working overtime to try and clean the town as best we can.
What's your timeline here, and really your message to residents? Because I think sometimes people get a little confused. The tree may come down on their home from the sidewalk, or it may come down and it's already on their property. They're not always sure on who's responsible for what.
Correct. If it's a parkway tree, that's village property. That's a village tree. If that falls onto the home, we will take care of that. That's why we have the contractor in town. They have the technical capabilities to get the trees off the houses with their machinery. If it's a backyard tree, that is private property, and for liability reasons, we're not allowed to go on private property. So it is the homeowner's responsibility to take care of that type of situation.
I know you said that you're about 60% done with the cleanup from previous storms. Any timeline here on when you think this version of what has happened will be cleaned up? If you had to give it a timeline, any idea when?
I really hesitate to give a timeline. It's just a slow go. Patience is a virtue, as they say. So we just are working hard every day to get our stuff taken care of for the residents. There's no timeline for residents to be able to get their stuff out for us to get from the parkways. We know that this is going to be a long, slow process, and we just continue to ask for everyone's patience while we do this and try to stick together through this whole thing.
Have you heard anything from homeowners? Are people calling? And if so, what are some of the biggest issues that people are having right now?
Definitely trees on houses, trees on cars, trying to, obviously they're frustrated, they're overwhelmed with it. And so it's up to us to be patient with them as well. And just listen to their calls and let them know that we're doing our best to take care of them and overall being patient.
I know yesterday there was a huge thoroughfare that was kind of shut down by some trees that had come down. It was southbound Kedzie, closed at HF High School. Trees and wires, has that been cleaned up to your knowledge?
To my knowledge, I am not aware.
Okay.
Yeah.
What are you telling residents at this point? Are there numbers that they shouldn't call? Should they not be, because I could imagine when this storm first happened, I'm guessing some people automatically called 911. What are some numbers or things you would tell residents, this is what you should do, this is who you do call, this is who maybe you shouldn't call right now?
Well, there's definitely, if it's on a power line, call ComEd. They have emergency numbers to call. if it's on a power line, we can't touch it anyway because we don't have the capabilities to do that. So we have to wait for ComEd to come. If it's for obviously an emergency, you would call 911. We do know, and we have asked residents to limit their phone calls here to the office just because we're out assessing the damage anyway. And so them calling, it does help us know that they have something in their yard, but we also are out assessing and going street by street, to assess the damage. So we do have everything that's happened on a list that we're making for our contractors, for our staff. So that's the biggest thing.
Yeah, I was looking at an update that the village had actually put out not too long ago, and one of the calls that was continuously coming in were for down power lines, which you guys don't deal with that. People may not be aware of that. They need to call ComEd, and that number is 1-800-EDISON-1 for anyone that's watching right now. And at last check, ComEd actually reported that about 36% of Homewood residents had power restored. I don't know if we've gotten an update on that. I want to go to one other point here. The American Red Cross has contacted the village there and is asking residents who need assistance to call 1-800-RED-CROSS. Any final words from you, Sean, on where we stand with all of this? Obviously not as bad maybe as Northwest Indiana, but still bad enough because this is not the first time. Any final words on really the totality of this, if you've ever even seen something like this before?
I have not. It's pretty devastating to see. When I pulled up on this morning at one of the homes with the trees on it, one home had 2 trees on its house, 2 very large parkway trees, and it made my stomach sink just seeing that and seeing what residents are having to go through. So never seen anything like this weather-wise, but we take it day by day and just do the best we can and hope for the best.
Yeah, that's all we can do. Any reports of injuries there to your knowledge or anything like that, or has it just been really the damage of property done?
Really just thankfully just the damage of property. I think if there's a silver lining in this, it's that there haven't been any serious injuries or injuries that I've even been aware of. So I think if we can look at a silver lining, that would be it.
Yeah, we got to be grateful to God for that. Sean Faulkner, Assistant Director of Public Works with the Village of Homewood, thank you so much for your time today. And I hope the next time we speak, everything's cleaned up and power is fully restored. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you for having me.
All right. It was a pleasure. We'll stay with us right here on Chicago Live. Next, we're going to be talking to Carmen Day. She is the mother of Jelani Day, and I'm sure that case rings bells to you when you hear the name. He went missing. This was in 2021, and he was found dead in an Illinois river. And on top of that, he was an amazing swimmer. We're going to have a follow-up with her coming up right after this break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We are watching very closely a situation unfolding in Georgia, actually Macon, Georgia right now at Warner Robins High School. Actually, it's not that far from Macon, Georgia, which is about 84 miles away from Atlanta. What we know is that authorities in the school district there are confirming that a student was shot on campus. We don't know a confirmed condition of that student. We do know that the shooting triggered a lockdown of the high school. You're looking at all of those first responders responding to the scene right now. This is very early in the investigation. It is unfolding at this very hour, and that is pretty much all that we know. You're looking at the areas around the school. That's Demon Valley Road and South Davis Drive. They're currently closed at this time because of this investigation. Police, they were actually telling people to avoid the area and use alternate routes. We know that school is obviously in session there, and so they're telling people to steer clear because obviously, you know, when things like this happen, parents rush to the scene right away trying to get their kids out of school, which can really jam up police being able to find out who the shooter is, what happened, and all of that. In terms of who the shooter is, if the shooter is in custody, that is still unclear of exactly who authorities are currently looking for, but we do know this incident is currently under investigation. Of course, we'll continue to watch that very closely. Okay, we want to reset here and bring it back home. We want to introduce you yet again. I'm sure you've heard the name Jelani Day. We want to introduce you to his mother, Carmen Day, who I actually spoke to in the past. Carmen Day is Jelani's mom. Carmen, first of all, thank you so much for coming on. I know it was pretty much last minute that we reached out to you to get you on. But I do want to talk about, you know, you've turned pain into purpose, which is a very difficult thing to do. I've never lost a child, but I can only imagine, and I remember those early days of speaking to you about your son. And still today, you really still have no true concrete answers as to what happened to your son. Am I right?
You are correct.
What is the latest information that you've received on what unfolded that day to your son? Because your son was a college student, was traveling, was found dead in the Illinois River. I remember us talking about it. He could swim. So a lot of questions as to what happened. And then I want to get into your event that you're having as well. But I want to start out with this investigation because we've seen similar investigations unfold across the country, similar to your son. And one thing I know for certain is that you deserve answers. Where are we now with this investigation?
We're no closer than we were 5 years ago. I am still seeking answers. I'm still seeking for a new investigation with new eyes because I believe in my heart that the things that were missed and that should have been done early on in the first 72 hours or within those first 30 days before they identified that body as my son, that those things that were not done, I believe that if there was a new set of eyes and a new team on it, that we could get the answers and we could find who was responsible for Jelani not being here today.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's important to note here, this was a small town where this happened. Everybody in that town pretty much knew each other and know each other. And I think if I remember correctly, talking to you early on, you know, there was some ideas that maybe there was some form of a cover-up by some of the police departments, some of the policing agencies on this case. I want you to talk about your foundation that you established. You're going to have your 4th annual gala. It's happening Saturday, August 22nd. You have attorney Ben Crump there as the keynote speaker. Ben Crump, his name obviously widely known with civil rights cases. Tell me what people can expect if they come to this gala and really what you're hoping for, because you're living with no answer still.
What I'm hoping for, Tia, I'm hoping that when people continue to hear Jelani's name and to hear our story and to hear the facts of what we were told and what has happened, that it too rings in their mind and in their head that this was not an accident. This was not something that Jelani did to himself, and that they too will want answers with me. My purpose for this gala, or even for the foundation, is to help families not to endure this type of pain and this type of thing that I'm going through. I want to be able to assist families, whether it's monetarily or to lead them to other resources, because those are things that we were not afforded when I was going through this, when Jelani was missing. Things need to change, and I want to be a part of that change, because you see so many resources out there for missing white females, people of non-color, or you even see them resources out there for females, period. But there's not a lot of resources for males, for missing males, and missing black and brown males especially. So I want to make sure that there's a difference in that, because Jelani didn't get that help. He was ignored, he was stereotyped, he was stigmatized, and I don't want that to happen again.
I want to bring people up to speed, Carmen, because I think it's relevant. Maybe for the first time, some people are hearing the name Jelani Day, and they're like, well, what is the backstory? Jelani Day, your son, 25 years old, a graduate student, very intelligent, right? I think that's important to note here. A graduate student at Illinois State University. He was studying speech language pathology. He had aspirations of becoming a doctor. And what we know, he was last seen August 24th of 2021. So we're almost 5 years to the day in which this happened. Right. We're getting pretty close to it. What we know happened was his white Chrysler 300 was discovered on August 24th. So 2 days after he was last seen in Peru, Illinois, which is roughly 60 miles from Bloomington. And then this was the big question. His vehicle was found, or he was, I should say, found in a wooded area near the Illinois Valley YMCA. That's where the vehicle, I think, was found. And then he was found at the river. Tell me, when you look back, because you said some things there where you said what you learned versus what you've been told, they don't match up. What doesn't match up still to this day, almost 5 years later?
Tia, the license plate from my son's car was removed. Nobody that would intentionally want to harm himself would remove their license plates. The locations and everything was erased from his phone. Nobody that wants to hurt themselves or is going to take the time to delete information and delete locations and those things from their phone. His phone was thrown out of his car and found on the highway near Bloomington, Illinois. However, his car was found 63 miles away in a residential area behind a YMCA. So when we say wooded area, you know, we give off this inclination that it's the woods. It's not the woods. There's a bunch of trees and bushes. Children walk through this area to go to school. You had to know this area in order to be in that area. Jelani didn't know this area. Jelani didn't know anything about Peru, Illinois. Jelani wouldn't go to Peru, Illinois. Peru, Illinois is comprised of 1% black. This was not something that my son would have done at all. He would have not parked his car, walked 3 miles to a river, and along the way threw out his wallet and his ID and his lanyard, and then took his clothes off, put himself in a river, and drowned himself. Especially when there's no water that is found in his lungs, which indicates to me my son was dead before he was put into that river. So all of these things added together, they lead back to that this is not something that someone would do to themselves. And I want that whole narrative to quit being the one that is spread, because that's what the police wanted everyone to believe.
Is this case closed, Carmen, to your knowledge?
It is not closed. It is still open, yet it's not active.
It needs to be active. And
they are not actively working it.
And I want to bring up something that you said there, because you mentioned Peru and, you know, the population there and how important that is. Peru, Illinois is also considered a sundown town, which I think is relevant in this conversation when we talk about history. And if someone's watching right now, and God forbid they don't know what a sundown town is, it is a place where black and non-white residents were barred from living, working, and traveling after dark, which brings up a lot of questions here of who could be behind this and why this would have happened. You mentioned something there about the investigation. At one point, I thought the FBI was assisting with this investigation. Is that not the case, or is that still ongoing?
That is not the case. When they say that the FBI was assisting in the investigation, the FBI, the only contact that they had with me was the Bureau it's the BAU unit, which was the behavior analyst unit. And that unit was analyzing Jelani to see if they could, I guess the analyst was trying to determine if they could think how he was thinking in order to determine why or what happened. That's the only input that I had, or the only involvement that the FBI had that I am aware of, and that to this day that I know of. The FBI, according to the Peru police, the FBI had Jelani's telephone. However, with all of the equipment and in this day and age, everything that we have, AI and cameras and everything, they had his phone for over a year and a half, and they weren't able to unlock the phone. I just happened to sit down one day, 2 years later, and watch a video of my son and notice that he was putting in his code on the phone. I tried my best to enlarge the video, to slow the video down. I was not capable of doing that. I shared this information with the Jelani Day Joint Task Force, who was aware of the video but had never done anything with it. I also shared this video with my children. We watched that video, and in a matter of 10 days, we are the ones who unlocked his phone.
Wow. And so has anything come of the phone? Was that phone then handed over to any law enforcement, and has anything come of it?
The phone was, according to the Bloomington police, there was nothing on the phone. I sent the phone off, and for right now, the things that I have went through do not lead to me to discover anything. However, because of the heaviness of it, Tia, to be honest with you, I go through a lot of those police reports, and I look at the phone and I look at the things, and I just can't sometimes. So
okay.
I haven't done everything that I need to do, because it's not going to happen unless I make it happen. And so it's hard.
And frustrating. I get it.
It's very frustrating because, you know, I shouldn't have to do all of this, but I've had to do it. And at the same time, I've got to still function. Life doesn't stop because my son is gone. You know, nothing stops. Life does not stop. So I had to learn to acclimate, and I've got to still survive and do the things that I need to do to function. And it's hard.
And it's like a new world for you. You never expected to lose a son. Usually, as a parent, you expect your child to have to bury you, not the reverse of that. I do want you to air out there, because I do think, for public sake, maybe somebody out there does know something. Maybe, you know, here we are approaching 5 years later. Maybe there's somebody that has a little something that maybe looking back now, maybe they didn't realize what they had. What would you say? This will be disseminated to the masses. What would you say that could bring your family some peace? What would you want someone out there that may have a little bit of a clue to do with that information at this point?
I would want them to, the police departments, you can still contact them, but if you cannot or don't feel that information will get to them, or you don't feel that they're helping you, because I've had plenty of people tell me that they've reported things and it's not went anywhere, please contact me. You can contact me via the socials, the Justice for Jelani Day page on all social media platforms. I read those things. I pay attention to those things. So if you have any information that will lead to helping us find out what happened to Jelani, I welcome that.
I know you have Ben Crump there as your keynote speaker on August 22nd. Is Crump now going to help you, or has he helped your family in any way? Or are you just navigating this, you know, day by day? Because I understand the emotional load that comes with this as well.
Absolutely. I'm navigating it day by day. And Mr. Crump, Attorney Crump, he is helping bring the exposure to amplify Jelani's name so that we can get the help that we need. So I am grateful for his assistance and his help in helping me, and especially with wanting to help us at this 5-year mark. This would have been the year Jelani turned 30 years old. And this is important to me for you all to know, that I don't need Jelani. I never will forget Jelani, and I don't want you to forget him. Jelani would have been a reckoning force if he was still here. And I just want everybody to know this could have been you. It could have you could have woke up on that Wednesday morning and your whole life could have changed. I never thought in a million years that this was happening to me, but I do know now I'm not exempt. And I need everybody to realize this is not something that I would want anyone to go through. But this foundation and my purpose now is to help those who are going through something. I want to be in a position that I'm able to assist and help. And that is why we're having this fundraising gala, so that we can raise the money to do those things. We've not been able to assist a lot of families, but we have been able to help people. And so I do want to continue this because I want Jelani Day to be the missing people what Susan B. Komen is to cancer, to breast cancer.
No,
I really do. I want his name to ring as loud as that.
You said something very important there. You said this could be you, but really, because there's so many pieces of the puzzle that have not been put together, this can be people that are watching right now, because nothing is stopping it, because whomever is behind it is not behind bars. They're not caught. We don't know who's involved. And so it could be, it very well could be that this could happen to someone else. How can people attend your gala? Where can they go for more information, Carmen?
That information is found on, we have an Eventbrite. You can purchase your tickets on Eventbrite. The tickets are $75. The gala is August 22nd. Doors open at 4. The gala will begin at 5. You can also go to the website, which is thejelanidayfoundation.org, and you can purchase your tickets on there.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much, Carmen. I know, talking about, your son is a way of opening, some of those wounds of trauma that I know sometimes maybe you want to suppress, but we appreciate you being candid about where the investigation is and really what you want to see next. Hopefully by you speaking today, it gets the word out there and maybe someone will feel compelled to tell something of what they know. Carmen Day, it's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, Tia.
All right, we'll see you next time. We'll stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We have much more right after this break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We want to switch gears now. I'm sure you've heard of Gene and Giorgetti. I was just there a couple of weeks ago enjoying me a big old steak. Apparently it was Frank Sinatra's favorite steakhouse, and they're celebrating 85 years in business. We want to bring Michelle Durpetti. She's third generation principal at Gene and Giorgetti into the conversation. Michelle, thank you so much for coming on with us this afternoon.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm thrilled to be here.
Yeah, I'm sitting in the studio, but it's like I'm sitting back in the restaurant. I can smell the food right now. It's like one of those things where once you've been, you never forget it. The artwork inside, everything about it kind of like takes you back a little bit in time. Tell me about, why you think Gene and Giorgetti is still such a huge part of Chicago's landscape when we talk about restaurants.
I think you just said it perfectly. I think that sense of nostalgia that people feel instantly when they walk in the door, whether or not they've been there once or they're coming back for the 56th time, I think it's something they instantly know and feel familiar with. And I think nowadays that sense of familiar is something we all so covet and kind of seek out. So I think that, along with our consistency and our dedication to great service, I think are just three things that people really enjoy and know they can count on us for. So we're very grateful for that.
Michelle, when I look at you, third generation, you're younger, right? You're not 85. You're on the younger spectrum of things.
I wish I could say I was 85. Don't I look good?
But my point is we're living in a world now where everything wants to incorporate an experience, right? And that experience oftentimes leads into social media, AI. You're not doing that there. And I find that very interesting that you don't have to. When I went the day that I went, it was packed. It was packed to the brim.
So, we're very mindful about two things. One is safeguarding the legacy and ultimately the brand, and the fact that my grandfather Gene started it, my father Tony, and my mom Marion really honored what Gene and his partner Giorgetti started. But we also want to evolve it as well, because, my father had this many phrases. One of them was, if you don't drive your business, you'll be driven out. So we're very mindful about how do we protect what has always been while we also mindfully evolve. And so it's a little bit of a tightrope sometimes. But for us, AI and very, trending social media, all of those things that are driving a lot of flash in the pan kind of concepts don't work for us. And we understand that. And we stick to what we know works, and when we need to, we mindfully evolve.
I want you to talk about, we can kind of go back in time to 1941 here, because the menu is going to have some interesting items on it. What will the menu have to commemorate 85 years in business?
So throughout the month of August, to kind of celebrate the fact that we're 85, what we did was we actually went to social media in this particular instance, and we asked on our Facebook page and on our Instagram customers that love dishes that maybe had come off the menu over the years. And we wanted to honor those dishes and sort of bring them back in a nod to, some of the decades past. When you turn 85, it's a lot of time. So things like our fried ravioli, some of our real classics are going to be featured on the menu. It's a limited edition for August specials menu. Of course, some of our classics are always on our regular menu, like our Chicken Joe and some of our pastas and all of our steaks, like our classic cuts. So those are always there. This is a temporary kind of celebration, if you will, of dishes that maybe have come and gone that we're bringing back for a short time, just to celebrate the fact that we're 85.
Yeah, I want you to talk about, man, I could go for some gnocchi right now. I know that's a little off the cuff there, but man, you got me to thinking about it. I want you to tell me, when you celebrate 85, I'm not 85 quite yet, but even at this age, I can think of like so many good stories. What are some of like the classic stories that you've heard, that go way back in time that you will never forget?
I think one of my favorite stories, so the restaurant had a gentleman that worked with us for many, many, many years. His name was Ira Ware, and he worked in the kitchen. And recently I went through TSA at O'Hare, and his son saw my Gene and Giorgetti hat. I'm in baseball hats a lot. And he said, my dad used to work there. And I said, who's your dad? And he said, my dad was Ira Ware. And I didn't know Ira because he had passed away before I was born, but I knew the connection that Gene had with Ira. So for me, the stories that people tell us when people are like, oh my gosh, my grandfather came to your restaurant every Wednesday, or I proposed to my wife at your restaurant, or I came to your restaurant with my parents as a little girl. The stories that we continue to hear that are always new to us, for me, are the favorite part of hitting 85 and being with the brand now, because to me, my grandfather, my father, their spouses, Giorgetti and no one's ever gone if people are constantly celebrating those memories. And that's sort of my favorite part about getting to this point, besides just surviving to this point.
Yeah, no, it makes complete sense. I'm just curious, a lot of what you're mentioning the men in the family. Are you the first woman to have this position?
Yeah.
And what kind of I would imagine there's a little pressure there, right? But what kind of pressure, goes into that? Or even growing up, is this something that you thought you would be doing, that you wanted to do?
So truthfully, my grandmother was actually the restaurant's first bookkeeper, and she did all the house accounts and a lot of the numbers stuff, but she had never set foot behind the bar. So the restaurant, for the majority of its existence, was owned and operated by the men in the family. Even if the women had strong opinions, they were never public facing. So I'm the first female in the family to own and operate it. It's completely female owned and operated. My mom and I share that. And that's kind of a big deal because it was always known as being such a masculine restaurant. And I actually think the building itself has a female energy, because I don't think you can be that resilient and not be female.
I agree.
For me, coming into it, the restaurant industry isn't the easiest for a woman, especially a young woman. I refer to myself as a reluctant restaurateur. I did not know growing up that I would end up in the restaurant. I wasn't encouraged to follow in the footsteps. I actually own and operate my own business separate from the restaurant. I'm a destination wedding planner, and that business is 20 years old, and I work all over the world for my clients. And I still own and operate the restaurant. I didn't want to have to sacrifice one or the other. And thankfully, my father was a really forward-thinking, phenomenal man who encouraged me to do it. So here we are.
Yeah, I'm looking you up right now because I'm nosy. DuPrettyEvents.com is your website.
That's right.
Yeah, you have some amazing stuff going on there. What would be your message to folks? Maybe they haven't been to Gene and Giorgetti in a while. Why they should stop by?
So I love this question. Thank you for asking, because so many people are like, oh, it's changed. It's not the same. They don't do this anymore. They don't do that. And that's true. But in order to get to 85, you can't keep doing the same thing over and over again, because you won't last. So some of what we've done to be able to still be here and celebrate all of the moments with the people that love us, whom we also love so much. So my answer to your question would be, come in and experience Gene and Giorgetti now while you celebrate what you knew about Gene and Giorgetti then, because there's still some parallels. There's still a lot of, alignment there. And there's a lot of amazing, cool new things now, too, that are worth tasting.
And I know you're a grown woman, but I must say it, you go, girl. Okay, I had to get that off my chest.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much.
I love to see a woman, in her own lane, doing her own thing, owning who she is, and being a boss. So hats off to you. Respect to you. No pun intended, because you're wearing a hat. But we thank you so much for coming on. I love your hat. It's amazing. We thank you so much for coming on. And next time, you got to bring me some gnocchi first before we have you on here.
Now that I know that, guaranteed.
Guaranteed every time. I can eat it for breakfast, lunch, and dinner. All right. Michelle Durpetti.
on that.
You too? Is that your go-to? What's your go-to in the restaurant?
The bolognese is my favorite. Gnocchi bolognese is one of my faves.
Mm-hmm. Love it myself as well. All right, Michelle, you got my tummy rumbling now because I'm hungry. Thank you so much for coming on Chicago Live.
Thank you.
All right, we'll see you next time. Stay with us right here. We're going to talk about the headlines of what you can see on Fox 32 News at 4 and also 5. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We want to reset here. We've been talking about storm damage across the Chicagoland area. We know that a good majority of people, with ComEd at least in the state of Illinois, 176,000 at one point were without power. The good news is we're going to head over to Lansing, Illinois, where we know about 82% of Lansing customers have been restored. We want to bring Mayor Brian Hardy into the conversation about really what they're seeing there. Good morning. Good morning. I've been up way too early, Mayor, dealing with the storm damage myself. Good afternoon, Mayor. Thank you so much for coming on. Tell us what's really maybe one of the major issues that you're seeing in Lansing right now.
Sure, Tia. Thanks for having us too. I appreciate it. Yeah, as of all your viewing listeners know, the south suburbs just got hammered yesterday again, a little after 11 o'clock. With these severe storms that came through, and Lansing being an older village, we have a lot of older trees, so we've just had tremendous tree damage, and of course with these large trees, where they want to go in backyards and in people's homes. So we've had approximately about 137 homes structurally disabled by some of these heavy trees and stuff like that. But where we're at right now is, I got to just say hats off to all our departments, our first responders, our public works departments. They've been out there 24/7, just clearing streets, for our first responders, to make sure that all our emergency equipment can get through. So about 99% of our streets are open. We do have some trees and streets with power lines still entanglement, so we're working with ComEd to go ahead and get those lines disconnected so that we can remove the trees and move on. But as you guys know, 2 weeks ago we had an EF1 tornado rip through the south end of our village, and we've been just making progress on that. And then, like I said, this happened too, but this is more widespread and more, it's devastating. Everything south of 8094, basically in our village, going south to our airport, we have the Lansing Municipal Airport, which also suffered some structural damage. We've had just multiple trees down and structure damage.
Yeah, we had a crew out there. Brittany Toulis, one of our reporters, reported back. This was at 1:47 this afternoon that the crew out there saw a lot of damage on 186th east of Burnham and by Schultz Park. And it's because of what you said there, down trees and power lines. I want to talk to you about, the schools and being able to get back up and running. I thought school was supposed to start today and tomorrow. Is that still happening? I'm going to just predict maybe not.
You know what? That's a good question. I'm usually in really close contact with our superintendents from 215, 171, and 158 are the 3 school districts that are in Lansing. And I couldn't tell you if there's been a delay on it. I know Indiana was supposed to have school today, and I know Munster is our neighboring town, and they also got, I'll use the word hammered. They got decimated with these high winds as well. I know that they have no power throughout their village as well.
I was looking at a notice that was sent out in the village there of Lansing, really trying to inform people, because I think sometimes there's confusion, based on where the tree comes from, where it falls, who's responsible, who's not. What's your message there? Because I know it can get very, very confusing for folks when they're in the middle of it and they want this thing removed right now.
Sure. Yeah, absolutely. So we are telling our homeowners to reach out to their home insurance for right now. And then they're going to do an assessment, and then we're going to do an assessment on, the trees that possibly were in the parkways. So, but like I said, we've had such major damage, through so many neighborhoods that, you have trees, in people's front lawns, backyards, parkways. So, like I said, right now, we're trying to make sure that we clear driveways, roadways, working with ComEd to keep, we don't have any live lines down, at least what I'm hearing. Still, with that being said, I'm asking all residents, do not approach a down line. Do not take for, thinking that maybe it could be not live, but let's just be cautious when we do that. So, the method, the message right now that we are telling people is, first of all, contact your homeowner's insurance, because that's the first place that you're going to want to go to. And then I'm just going to say that, with a village, stepping in, we'll definitely, work with whatever insurance companies that we have to, and we'll start determining, what our next steps are. So I'm going to say we're here for the long haul. We're going to be here to help our residents in any way we can. But again, just I think the first thing they do is they need to reach out to their homeowner's insurance, get an adjuster out there. So first of all, they can, if there is damage to their house, that homeowner's insurance will take care of, possibly tarping it or doing something like that. Because right now we have all our crews out. We don't have any kind of equipment that would be able to, because I mean there are some large trees, 100-year-old trees that are, like I said, crashing through homes. We don't have a crane or anything to pick those up, not at this time. We have reached out to several tree services. They have been responding to us, so we are, like I said, out in full force.
Now, I appreciate you saying that, because we do know there are some, for lack of a better word, predators out there that will prey on homeowners, riding through these communities, seeing the devastation, and, trying to take advantage as much as they can. So we appreciate you putting that out there. I know a lot of times folks are hesitant to give a timeline, so I won't put you on the spot for that, Mayor Hardy, but I do want you to tell me maybe what % of cleanup, in your opinion, if you could give me a number, a percentage here of what % of cleanup is still left.
Well, yeah, as you know, like I said, 2 weeks ago, we were still cleaning up after that EF1 tornado, and we've made great progress in the Oakwood Estates area. Of course, there's still debris and homes that are destroyed, and they're going to have to be rebuilt. So with that being said, the widespread of damage that has happened in our village, I'm going to have to say it's going to be a long process. It's not going to be a week. It's not going to be 2 weeks. It may last into a month for us to go ahead and get, all the trees and debris, off the parkways, to help our residents out. So I am asking our residents, please be patient. Our crews are out there. Believe me, these men and women are out there working endlessly, hours, hour after hour. I was amazed last night. It was 11:30 at night, and we still had crews, out there removing trees, opening up roadways, and they were right back at it again this morning at 6, and they'll be out there. But I just ask our residents, just please be patient. We will get to you. We will get to the debris. We will pick it up, and like I said, just contact your homeowner's insurance. That's the first thing that you really need to do, because that's going to be, the person that's going to give you the best advice, and then we'll go from there.
No, very good advice there. We know property can be replaced, but lives can't be. Mayor Brian Hardy of Lansing, Illinois, good luck on the cleanup there, and best of luck to your residents as well as they try to navigate, what's really just devastation is really the only word I can think of for what I've seen so far. We appreciate your time today.
Yeah, thanks, Tia. I appreciate it. All right, take care. God bless everybody.
Thank you. I agree. God bless everyone watching as well, and everyone everywhere. Stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We have many more headlines to get to when we come right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. I want to tell you about some of the headlines that we will be following on Fox Chicago for you today. Obviously, the storms dominating a good majority of our news coverage. We will have Joni Lum. She'll be live in Portage, Indiana, where we do know an 88-year-old woman died. It has not been confirmed yet if that was a result of the storm that rolled through Portage, Indiana, but we know Portage has definitely seen its share of devastation. We're also going to go to Brett Bagansky, who's going to be live on the ground in Indiana as well, Northwest Indiana. At this hour, over 400,000 customers are without power across Illinois and Indiana. Majority of those are in Indiana. 276,000 folks still without power there. Hopefully, at some point, we hear from NIPSCO because we know people in that area are paying the bills. They're up through the roof. We've been reporting on that, so it'll be great to hear from NIPSCO on when they expect power to be restored and really get to the center of what happened with the power lines there. We know a lot of trees came down, a lot of trees fell on power lines, and so the cleanup there may take some time, but it would be great to hear from NIPSCO on that. Brett Bagansky will be live with that report. We're also going to talk a little bit about something that we actually talked about within this show, and that is generator safety, because we know we've seen the long lines of folks out there at the gas stations in Northwest Indiana trying to get their hands on gas, especially diesel, for those generators to be powered up and to be able to go. And a lot of times people aren't thinking in that moment. They're just thinking, I want to get my power restored. Let me get this generator plugged up. And they're not thinking about the safety of it. And in fact, we heard from an official there in Homewood talking about what to do when it comes to a generator, what not to do when it comes to a generator. One thing you need to know, keep generators at least 20 feet away from your home. Position the exhaust so it points away from doors, windows, and vents to prevent carbon monoxide from entering your home, which we know can be a silent killer. And we would definitely hate to have to report something like that in light of the storms as well. Just an awful combination there. So you want to tune in to Fox Chicago if you can, because I know a lot of people are without power. It's even difficult to tell you to tune in because you may be watching on your phone, and it's even difficult to try to keep that charged. But if you can, make sure you tune in to Fox Chicago at 4 and also 5. And one thing that we all can do right now, maybe you can't donate, financially, but you can be neighborly and look out for your neighbors in times like this. So that is the best advice as we all try to navigate this. Stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We know the storms have caused a lot of damage out there for folks, and a lot of people want to get that stuff cleaned up quickly. And a knock at the door could seem like it's your saving grace, but there are some things that you need to know about, especially scammers, aka storm chasers that are out there hoping to catch you up. We want to bring in Steve Burness. He's the president and CEO of the BBB here in Chicago. Steve, good afternoon to you.
Thank you so much for having me today. Greatly appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm happy that we're talking about this because, you know, I always say, Steve, I'm going to just be very honest. A lot of these folks need to get a job, but unfortunately they won't use their smarts for good. They're using it for the bad. Tell me, what are some of the storm chaser scams that people need to be looking out for right now?
Well, it happens all the time. It's a perennial problem. Every time there's a storm, the storm chasers move in. Not the good storm chasers, the bad storm chasers who are bad actors, bad businesses that try to profit on the damage that's caused by these storms. Unfortunately, they're heartless because they're going after consumers who may have lost their homes or lost possessions and things of that nature. So what normally happens is that like a good doctor, the good contractors are busy already since that time. So what happens is that you got to find a contractor, and it's hard to do. So they know that. So they come knocking at the door saying, I happen to be down the street or I happen to be in the area and we can help you. And obviously they tell you everything you want to hear. And most of them have what we call tail light warranties. So as soon as they do their work or take your money, the last time you see their tail light, that's as good as the warranty. There's no warranty after that. So again, these are individuals who move town to town and they try to take advantage of consumers. And I witnessed this probably about 5-6 years ago in Naperville. There was a massive hailstorm that came through, and you just it was like Halloween. This constantly ringing the doorbells or dropping off the ripoff.
No, and I get your point there, and especially in a situation like what we've seen, where we had storms, literally 24 hours apart, not even. We had the storms yesterday. Some areas got hit today with rain and some wind. And so I think sometimes there's this rush to get it done right now for folks that are feeling like, listen, this tree is inching way too close to my house. It's, been ripped from the roots. I need to get it removed. What would you say to a person out there right now that feels like, I want to get this done right now? What should they be doing to make sure that whomever they hire is legit? Should they go to the insurance company first?
Obviously, you should contact your insurance company first. They may provide you some services and tips as well. But consumers really need to take a pause. I know that basements may be full of water or damage to your roof or things of that nature, but you're going to spend a longer amount of time after the fact if you're dealing with a bad business or a scammer. So in essence, you'll be spending more money or more time that you could have saved by doing your homework. So just like any other purchase, you want to do some research on that organization itself. And a lot of times you won't find anything online because these are storm chasers that don't have a track record. And that's a sign too. So you got to find some information about them and make sure they're verified they are a business, make sure they can operate in your city, make sure they adhere to your city codes in terms of permits and things of that nature. It's always those storm chasers make that quick hit, sign here, give us cash, things of that nature. If you feel your gut feeling something wrong with them, then usually it's a good indication that something is wrong. You got to take a pause. But I know it's very difficult with water in your basement, like I said, or tree may come through your roof or something like that. But again, you'll save more time and energy now by doing the homework than you will after the fact when you're trying to go after these scammers or bad businesses.
I want to ask you this because I've never been in the position, and maybe some people watching right now feel the same way. I've never been in a position where something has happened to my home and I needed to get with the insurance company to figure it out. So I want to ask you this because maybe someone else is in the same shoes. When you call that insurance company and you say, hey, there's a tree on my roof, for example, do they then give you a list of reputable contractors, or is the onus on you to now do the work to find the people that are legit to do the work?
Most times insurance companies say they'll tell you how much money or how much you are covered for and to do the work yourself and let them know. There are some insurance companies, every insurance company is different, providing names or people they worked with in the past, but it's best to call your insurance company first to see how much you are covered for this type of loss, and they may have some point you in the right direction as well. But again, that's no guarantee. we've seen that time again. I'm not saying the insurance company's not going to give you a scam company, but they give you a bad business or somebody that doesn't have a track record for not doing the right thing. So
and how would you know, Steve? How would you know? What would be the signs that say this is a bad business? What should you be asking for?
First and foremost, you got to make sure they're licensed and they have insurance and things of that nature themselves. And secondly, is look on the review sites like the Better Business Bureau and other sites to see what kind of track record they have. If they have no track record, that, like I mentioned earlier, that could be a sign too, because storm chasers don't have track records. They change their names, they go into different neighborhoods, they change to a Spanish name, they change it to a Polish name, depending on what neighborhood they're actually going into. So again, sometimes it's really the onus is on the consumer to do their homework and not rely on anybody to help them. And going on a Facebook marketplace and asking somebody for a tip on a great roofer, that's not a good thing either, because there's no track record. There's no checks and balances in place. Is this person maybe just done one roof in their life? Are they insured? And so many other things. So the Better Business Bureau is a great resource for our referral agency. We've been doing this for over 100 years here in Chicago. What I mean by that, we can find businesses that you can trust by going to the Better Business Bureau website. But it's not all just storm related. We can buy a car, fixing your air conditioning, whatever it may be. You come to us, we'll help them out, look for organizations that they can trust, and we hold companies to a higher standard, so you don't have to, in essence.
Yeah,
but again, there's other referral agencies out there that you just have to have that track record that they've been doing it around and they're a member of some type of organization, not just a no-name organization.
Yeah, bbb.org is a good resource. I want to ask you, this is a final question. I know a lot of times when we talk about different scams, you always say to make sure that you're paying with a card, right? Some type of protection there for yourself. We know a lot of times with those insurance companies, they will give you a check, right? They'll give the check to the homeowner, for example. What would you say a person should use as currency no matter who they're picking as this contractor? Maybe they feel like the person is legit. What should they do to make sure they get their money back? Because I've heard from people say, oh, I gave the contractor, $3,000. The work was $13,000, but I gave him $3,000 up front. I haven't seen him since.
That's what happens a lot of time, that tail light warranty, as I mentioned earlier. So pay with your credit card. That's actually your safest bet because you have your best protection. Don't use your debit card if you don't have to, because your debit card, if it's stolen, lost, or tampered with, the bank has to do the investigation, which can take months, and it ties up your money in that account, whereas a credit card, it won't tie it up. Never pay cash. That is key. Cash is something that you never want to pay directly. And if you do get a check from an insurance company, don't sign it over to the insurance company. The insurance company makes it out to you for a reason. They want you to take care of it and pay when everything's said and done, and pay third in the beginning, third in the middle, and third at the end. If anybody asks for it up front, it usually means they have bad credit, no credit, or they could be a scammer.
All right. Very good tips there, Steve Burness. Always a pleasure. Thank you so much for your time today. We appreciate you as always.
Thank you. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We're going to talk with Emily Walls coming your way next, our chief meteorologist, about the forecast, what we've seen so far today, and what could be to come. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
sale. Don't miss it.
Welcome back to Chicago Live 329 on your Wednesday afternoon. We've been talking about the storms that have really impacted our area, specifically Northwest Indiana and some of the south suburbs as well. We have Chief Meteorologist Emily Walls here. I know you sent out a note, because I read everything that you send out. You sent out a note saying that the National Weather Service was going to have surveyors on the ground in Indiana, also the southwest suburbs as well, looking to confirm if those were tornadoes. What do we know at this hour? What's unfolding now?
So as of right now, we're still waiting on confirmation on further tornadoes. So far, we have 3 tornadoes that have been confirmed from Tuesday's derecho. And by the way, derecho, if you haven't been familiar with what that is, it's essentially a really large, long-winded windstorm.
Sounds like somebody's name.
Yes.
But I'm happy you're breaking it down.
Yes, that it extends for 240 miles or greater of wind damage. So yesterday,
that's a lot of damage.
That's a lot of damage. And yesterday's derecho actually went over 300 miles. So we were just a fraction of it here in the Chicagoland area. But unfortunately, in addition to all of the wind damage, the straight line wind damage, the National Weather Service, they are still also out surveying to see different sites that were hit really hard to determine whether or not that was straight line wind damage or tornadoes. I want to talk a little bit about tornadoes and the count that we are at so far this year. So the Chicago National Weather Service forecast area, which is a little bit larger than the Fox Chicago viewing area, has had 68 confirmed tornadoes so far this year. And if that doesn't sound like a lot to you, it should, because the average, the 10-year average, is 26 tornadoes.
Wow. So we're having a lot. Right.
We're having a lot. And the record for our area is 63 tornadoes. That was set back in 2024. We've already exceeded that, and it's only August. We get tornadoes. It's capable, that we could have tornadoes every single month of the year. So unfortunately, that tally is only going to go up. And it's not just our area, Tia. It's the entire state of Illinois. We're now at least 200 confirmed tornadoes in the state of Illinois. Our previous record was 142, so we've blown past that one as well. And the state that holds the single state tally for the most in a year is Texas at 232 tornadoes, and that was set back in 2015. And Illinois, I think we're going to rival that this year.
What do you think, from a scientific standpoint, is contributing to this, if anything can be indicated at this point? Because I know it's still early in this season with us, we're not out of the woods quite yet. And I'm sure there's some research that will have to be done to determine how we got here. But I remember talking to a climatologist yesterday, because people come up with their own fascinating myths about what's going on with our environment, if there's human manipulation. He said absolutely not, not even possible. Anything that you see that could be pointing us in this direction so far?
I think it would be naive to not talk about climate change and global warming. And unfortunately, that's become a little more of a political topic for some reason, and it shouldn't be. You can just look at data and you can see it for yourself. But unfortunately, these events, they are unfolding more frequently. They're becoming a little more intense, and you have to really take that into account, that maybe this really is our new normal. The last several years, we have had far more tornadoes than what is considered to be average.
Yeah.
Now, there are some things that you can talk about to say, okay, how did we get to that number? We have cameras everywhere here. We have cameras on our phones. Everybody's always, taking pictures or videos of things that are going on around them. So yes, are there probably more tornadoes that are able to be confirmed now because we have
the video,
more eyewitness data? Yes, but when you're looking at numbers in the 60s, when your average is in the 20s, okay, it's an active year too.
Yeah, and it just brings up the question, why the Chicagoland area versus anywhere else too? I know you mentioned Texas is up there with their own, fair share of storms, but to it be us, I think brings up a lot of questions, because you're in it, right? So you're like, how did we get here? Why are we here?
Well, and something else that's really interesting, so back in 2020, there was a derecho that came through this area, and it is one of the most costly natural disasters that has happened in modern history. And now, 6 years and 1 day later, this same exact region is hit again with another one. And those are not storms that typically happen this frequently, right? I'd be really interested to see, and we're not going to know anytime soon, but I'm interested to see how the derecho from Tuesday stacks up against that derecho that happened in 2020, because the damage that's out there, Tia, you've seen it firsthand.
It's unbelievable.
It's unbelievable. It's hard to comprehend. We have extensive tree damage, home damage. Unfortunately, there's been a couple fatalities now that we've got to talk about as well. And, it was a really devastating day that we had on Tuesday, and the cleanup efforts, they're going to go on for a long time.
A very long time.
This is going to take a while.
We are not at the end of this just yet, which is even more, I think, unsettling for people. I think that's a good word to use, very unsettling as we move forward with all of this, right? So we appreciate you breaking some of the numbers down for us, Emily. Thank you so much. We do want to get to the mayor of Gary. He's going to talk about what they're seeing now in Gary, Indiana. We did talk to him early this morning, but we want to check back in. We know that the governor is on the ground in Northwest Indiana as well. Stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We have much more after this short break. Welcome back to Chicago Live. We've been talking about the storm damage that has really centered across two areas, really in our viewing area, southwest suburbs of Illinois and obviously northwest Indiana. We did get a chance to check in with the mayor of Gary, Indiana, Eddie Melton, earlier today. But since then, we know the governor of Indiana, Mike Braun, descended on northwest Indiana, and with him came some resources. And we want to talk to the mayor of Gary right now about what those resources mean. I know you've had a busy day there in Gary, so we appreciate you taking time out for us, not once, but now twice. Tell us, Mike Braun, he said a lot there in his press conference, declaring really portions of northwest Indiana a state of emergency. What does this now mean for the residents there in Gary, Indiana?
Well, it means more resources than the city has itself. So we know that we've been working around the clock, police, fire, our public works department, just making sure we have a lot of boots on the ground to remove tree branches, trees actually that are blocking the road. But we need some help. So it's not just Gary, it is the entire northwest Indiana, Lake and Porter County to be exact, and also some southern parts of Indiana. So the governor has come in, brought in the National Guard in preparation for him to potentially declare it a natural disaster. So myself and other mayors, we have already did our local declaration, and that triggers the state to pursue that, then which triggers the federal government. So hopefully all of that will be done today, so we can have additional resources with the National Guard, helping to remove trees, from homes and roadways.
I want to go to the Gary Chicago International Airport because we spoke about it earlier. In fact, the governor, that's normally how he would have landed, right, in Northwest Indiana. But because of some damage done there, that wasn't possible. When we spoke with you earlier this morning, you kind of talked about some of the damage there. Do we know how extensive that damage is now?
Yeah, so I went by the site to visit early yesterday when I received the report that one of the hangars of our fixed base operators had collapsed. Luckily, we had no injuries, no fatalities reported in that. We do have individuals working on that site right now, and it caused some delays at the airport. However, I think everything is back functioning and working, but out of the safety and precaution, I'm glad that the governor's office took the steps that they did.
Would you, I know I talked to some other officials across Chicagoland earlier today, and I never want people to give a timeline because once you put that out there, residents are calling the office like, you said Tuesday, and this place is, still not, back up and fully functioning. What % of cleanup would you say at this point is now left?
Well, I don't even think we've reached a 20% mark. You got to think about it. Gary is 52 square miles. We have significant damage and destruction. Trees are literally uprooted from the ground. So most of our main thoroughfares are open. So we are grateful for our collaboration with U.S. Steel, who lent us heavy equipment to move a lot of the trees. Thankful for the Indiana Department of Transportation. And again, the entire staff at the city of Gary has been phenomenal. But I think this is going to be a multi-day in terms of power outages. Some neighborhoods are starting to slowly get turned back on throughout Northwest Indiana. We had over 280,000 residents that were out throughout Northwest Indiana. So NIPSCO and their team have been doing a great job of restoration with nearly 200 contractors that have come into the area to help restore power. So this is going to take some time. So we're going to work with residents. We're encouraging residents, if they decide to move trees, tree branches, and tree limbs to put it in the easement, we're going to do our best as a city to help them gather that over the next several days and weeks to come.
Well, I want to say hats off to you because we've talked to a lot of officials today, and in Gary, it's been one of the few places we've heard that there are resources available for residents. I want you to point out what some of those resources are. I know some people don't have a place to necessarily maybe even lay their heads tonight. What are some resources out there that could be available for folks?
Yes, so shout out to our Director of Constituent Services, Tierra. She is doing a phenomenal job in setting up partnerships with the YWCA. We have a shelter right now, and people are literally at the YWCA as we speak, where we're serving food. We're giving them supplies. We're also working with the Red Cross to ensure that folks have a place to lay their head tonight if they have severe damage to their home. So 150 West 15th Avenue in the city of Gary, the YWCA. If you need to take a shower, you need a hot meal, right now that's our central base for residents to go to. Right now, the Gary Public Transportation Center is running bus routes up and down Broadway if folks have issues with transportation, and we're doing everything that we can to make sure that they can flow throughout the city.
What's next? I know this is going to be a tough road ahead because we've heard from some folks that are saying, don't expect this to be like an overnight fix. Yeah. This may take a while. What would you say is next for residents here in Gary, and really what they should be doing at a time like this? Because I know sometimes people get impatient. They start calling. They're hoping for answers right now, and some of those answers may not be as immediate as they think.
Yeah, we want folks to call because we want to track where the damage is done. So we encourage them to call 311 or use the app, the 311 application that we have here at the city of Gary. Let us know if there's a tree down, because if we don't have that data, it's hard for us to follow back up and address the issue. So we want to encourage folks to call 219-881-1311 to report that, or they can go on their application. Now, be patient with us. Technology sometimes goes in and out because of the storm. Also, phone lines get busy. We have a phenomenal front staff here. I'm actually right at the front desk now, so shout out to the ladies that have been working here, working with constituents. But we want to encourage folks to stay in the house if you can. Let us continue to clean up the roads and streets. Stay away from downed trees. Assume that every down power line is live. And also standing water. Make sure you stay out of standing water, out of safety and precaution. The Gary Sanitary District is doing a great job of making sure that we free any flooding. We have some reports of flooding taking place in some people's basements. The Little Calumet River did have some significant rain intake that we're trying to manage as well. So once all of these steps have been triggered, the declaration from the city, hopefully the state will be making that declaration, and the county, the federal government, and FEMA will bring in additional resources. And a shout out to our Congressman Frank Mervan for being a huge advocate for the city of Gary and Northwest Indiana.
Yeah, sounds like residents are going to need some of those resources. Mayor Eddie Melton, as always, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate you here at Fox Chicago.
Thank you, and everybody be safe.
All right, you do the same. Well, stay with us right here on Fox Chicago, Chicago Live. Maybe you haven't heard, there's a historic jackpot out there in terms of the lottery, the Powerball. Maybe you'll win. Maybe you'll send me a couple of dollars. Stay with us right here. We'll be right back. We're going to talk more about it. You know, it's been a really heavy show. We've been talking about a lot of heavy topics. And, you know, it's been a really tough day. We have to admit that when we're talking about storm coverage and people losing things that they need. You need shelter, right? So it's been a really tough day talking about those things. But this is a point in the newscast here on Chicago Live, this show, if you will. We're going to talk about something fun I think we all can get behind, and sing it with me. Money, 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 money. Yeah, we're talking about the Powerball jackpot. They didn't cue the music, so I got to do the singing here. It's climbed to an estimated 1 billion buckaroos, baby. Somebody send me some money. Hannah Gerchonik is with us. She is a private wealth advisor with Northwestern Mutual Summit and Sage Wealth Management and Insurance Solutions. Thank you so much for coming on. Anytime we can talk about money, honey, I have a good time. Let's start with this, Hannah. Talking about, you know, someone that may say, you know what, give me all my money up front, or they even win. What are some of the first things they should do if they find out that, you know what, I do have the winning ticket?
Well, this is a really fun topic. First thing is we got to blink twice, when you get that news. But the second thing is, I always say this isn't a spending event, it's a planning event. And the first thing you kind of want to do is don't do anything. Don't quit your job. Don't decide you're buying a yacht. What you really want to take a step back and say, okay, I think I need some trusted team members, some legal, some tax, some financial counsel. But most importantly, it's a fun exercise to reflect. It's a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to change the entire trajectory. And it's also a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity to ruin that trajectory. So I always say, it's the same question I get if someone comes to me and they say, I have $100,000. How should I invest it? I'm not talking about the stock or the mutual fund. I'm focused on what's the goal. What's your time frame? What does an ideal outcome look like? The $1 billion just makes that a lot more important one time.
No, you're very right about that. And that's a very real assessment, because suddenly you feel like your wallet is endless and you can just buy whatever you want. But if you don't plan properly, you won't have a dime left. And we've seen those shows where these people have won all of this money in the lottery and they go visit their house and they bought stupid stuff and they really have no true money to their name. And when you buy stuff, some of that stuff has no value. What should they consider when you talk about creating a financial plan? Because sometimes you want to give your family money to. Do you rope all of that in? Are you planning for yourself, your family, and the future?
Well, it's a big question. I always say, probably all the viewers have heard the phrase, more money, more problems. This is a sudden wealth creation, but it creates new opportunities, but a lot of risks, and a lot of more people knowing and wanting to approach you. So while a substantial lotto winning can eliminate so much stress in your life, it actually elevates the need to really reflect and have a plan with safety guards. It's really a point where we start with the biggest questions. What does life look like? What do we want to help family with? What is your charitable vision? What kind of legacy do you want to impart? Because a financial plan is about really taking your vision and your values into action rather than the other way around. But I do find that one of the most common things is generosity can become one of the draining elements of lotto winnings. And I think it comes with the guilt. I found this money and I want to share it, or I should share it. But same thing, we got to decide, what does generosity mean? Does it mean I want to help my mom who's worked so hard and raised me and pay off her mortgage? Or, hey, my nieces and nephews aren't in the same financial position, I want to gift college to them? Or does it just mean creating a foundation you've dreamt of for impact? As we were just listening to, all this stuff happening in Indiana, right? There's so much we can do with this newfound money, but a plan without the generosity built in is not a plan, because it does come up. But that's where you need to have the legal and the tax and the financial kind of intersect to say, how do I actually maximize that? And not only what I do today, but my impact long term.
I do think it's important to note this. In Illinois, if someone wins the Powerball, you can remain anonymous if that prize is $250,000 or more. So that does help with maybe people not knocking on your door and begging. But I'm curious if there are plans that can be created where, if I do want to be generous with some family, that they don't disclose, nor maybe I don't reveal the source of the money. Is that possible, that you can give to someone anonymously without them knowing that you're the source, and making sure they stay quiet as well?
I'd say that falls into the more legal elements of it. People can create irrevocable trust or charitable foundations. There are workarounds, but it's complex and in the legal realm.
What would you say? What can the rest of us learn? Maybe some of us won't win that one. I'm guessing a lot of us won't win that $1 billion, but we do have our hands maybe on a little money right now, and maybe we won't win the $1 billion. What should we be doing with our money now that can create, maybe some potential generational wealth down the line?
Two things. Winning the lotto is such a small percentage of statistics that actually happens. But all of us kind of do all these little actions day to day that compound for a lifetime. So tonight over dinner, it's kind of fun. Like, if I were to win the lotto, talk with your spouse or your child or your friend, like, what would I do? And you're going to hear a lot of different things. I'd buy a mansion. I would travel. I would help my parents out. I would fill in the blank. So just by going through that exercise, it illuminates what your priorities are and where you want your money to work for you. Because I always say there's better tools for different outcomes, so you can kind of focus on that. And then from there, you can actually say, I want to work towards it today. I'm going to pick one thing that I'm going to do this year and work towards that incrementally. Part two is a winning lotto changes your balance sheet in your life overnight for certain, but it doesn't create happiness or purpose or a lifetime of financial security. So the winners who do best, and the people who do best that I've seen over years and 2 decades now, it's the people who slow down, build a great team around them, and make intentional decisions. So I would say for all the listeners, whether we're thinking about $1,000, $10,000, or maybe you're the $1 billion winner today, the fundamental question is the same, and that is, what do you want your money to do for your life? Because it's about little actions throughout time.
I like that. My final question to you. If you win that $1 billion, how long does it typically take to plan? Are we talking about a month, 2 months?
Most people have never given all of these thoughts much consideration. It's usually a year. There's the first month is.
I'm going to have to stay working for a year? Wait a minute.
Say that again?
I'm going to still work for another year?
No, I mean, you could do it all in a month, but the choice to have financial freedom is instantly yours. But how you want to use it and how you effectively create it takes a little time.
All right. Well, you broke it down. We appreciate that. I'm just curious, before I let you go, if you won, what would you buy? First non-guilty buy, what would it be?
Probably a beach house.
Okay. And I'll move
What about you?
I'll move next door. That would be mine.
Okay.
Actually. So we're one and the same. I'll see you at the beach. Thank you so much for coming on Chicago Live today.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right. I love being able to dream about what you would do with the money. The producer of this show, Sasha, says she would take a trip. Brad, you got 5 seconds. You love to talk. What would you do if you won $1 billion? Tell me in my ear. He would go to break because he's always being a smarty pants. Stay with us right here on Chicago Live. We'll be right back.
All right, let's get into it. Indiana's governor says an emergency declaration is likely. What's the process for getting aid started, and what's happening in the areas hit hardest by the storms?
The storms took out power for homes across the area. What's the plan from ComEd and NIPSCO, and how long some could wait for their power to come back on?